I think we're ready now.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay, I will call to order the regular meeting of the Jerome Town Council. I am in the Jerome Civic Center at 600 Clark Street, Council Chambers. Today is Tuesday, November 10th. The time is 7:03. Can we do a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor Barber,
Present.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Here.
Ms. Moore,
I'm here.
Ms. Worth,
Present.
Dr. Dillenberg.
Here.
And item number 2 on our agenda, it talks about reorganization. We have all been sworn in prior to this meeting. We all met with Joan Dwyer on Monday. And that went smoothly, correct, Candace? Everyone was sworn in?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so item number 2A is the selection of mayor and vice mayor. Do we have any nominations? Would we like to discuss this, council? Okay, I can start off and say that as long as I've sat behind this dais, the person that got the most votes would be mayor if he, Jack Dillenberg, so wishes it. The person with the next most votes is usually our vice mayor if she so wishes it. Again, does anyone care to make a motion?
Can I nominate myself?
I'll make a
never
motion.
It's never happened before, Jack.
Then I won't.
Mandy's
I'll-
motion.
I'll be happy to make a motion, Miss Mayor.
Please, Mandy.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Dr. Jack Dillenberg as mayor of Jerome.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jane.
Do we have any more discussion? Otherwise, I will call the question. All those in favor of Jack Dillenberg, the highest vote getter at our last election, being our mayor, please say aye.
Aye.
Was that unanimous, Candace?
It sure sounded that way to me.
And now, Jack, you can nominate Mandy if you so wish.
I do so wish. Thank you. Thank you. Former, I don't know, Mayor Alex, I'll have some words for you in a moment, but thank you. Yes, I would like to nominate Mandy Worth as the vice mayor, please.
And I will second that, Jack. Do we have further discussion on the vice mayor? I will call the question. All those in favor of Mandy Worth as our vice mayor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so how this works is I now move this over to you, Jack. You will be chairing the rest of this meeting. Are you ready to do that, Jack?
I'm going to give it my best shot, but it's a learning process. You've done extraordinarily well these last few years, and thank you. I'm ready.
And I do know that in the first meeting, it's hard for the old mayor to not jump in because we're so used to doing this.
You
So
may
I
jump-
will be quiet now and let you go on with our agenda, Jack.
Thank you so much, Alex. You know, first,
Congratulations, you guys.
thank you. And it's an amazing honor. First of all, thank you to the citizens of Jerome for allowing me to be in the position that I was even eligible for this wonderful honor. And it is an honor, and I take it seriously, and I'm committed to doing everything I can to help the town of Jerome in many ways. The first thing I want to say is I got to give a shout out to the mayor and vice mayor, Alex and Sage, for the extraordinary work they've done, particularly during the pandemic situation that we're facing right now. For those who are, this is their first time they're observing a meeting like this, please know that Alex and Sage spent hours and hours and hours per week at meetings representing us, looking out for the best interests of the citizens of Jerome. And I will be eternally grateful for them doing that, as I believe all Jeromeans should be as well, and they may not be aware of it. So from the bottom of my heart, a sincere thank you. Former Mayor Barber, former Vice Mayor Harvey, you did extraordinarily good work, especially during this difficult time, representing us at these meetings and looking out for us. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Jack. I'm going to butt in just a minute. You were supposed to say we're moving on to item number 2B before you did your remarks. Thank you,
Oh,
Jack.
There
Who
you
would
go.
like
I
to-
am coachable. Thank you.
Yes, you are. Mandy, you're next.
Sorry, I'm dealing with a little tech learning curve. I just got a brand new phone, like not even a day ago. Um, I as well would like to second Jack on just the amazing work that the former mayor and former vice mayor did during the pandemic. I know that was a lot, and it was a lot of hours. And keeping our town as the priority and making sure that we worked our way through this from multiple angles, I know took a lot of dedication, and we very much appreciate it. Secondly, I'd like to thank the citizens of Jerome for their honor of being able to stay on council. I love what I've been doing the last 2 years. I'm just so grateful that they are willing to put this council back together so that we can continue the good work that we've been doing. Third, I'd like to thank the other council members. I definitely had a lot to learn when I first started, and there was a lot of support there. And I'd also like to thank our amazing staff. Oh my gosh, are they incredible? They take such good care of us. They take such good care of the town, and they're always willing to answer even the strangest, oddest question. They're willing to let us, sit and dig through files, and so that we have the information at hand and the best information we can get to make decisions for our citizens, our business owners, our community, our visitors that we can possibly make. And I am looking forward to a new challenge of being vice mayor and learning under Dr. Jack, who has been in this public sphere for a very long time and has a wealth of knowledge, but also from the fellow council members, from Jane and Alex and Sage. I guarantee I'll be leaning on you a little bit. So I thank everybody, and I'm excited for the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. And continuing with 2A, 2B, Jane, I wanted to thank you as well for, the many years of continuing service and expertise, and particularly on the water issues. I mean, I learned something every time we have a conversation, and it is so appreciative because you always put the town first, and it is so appreciated. I think I too am so thankful that we're all back together again. I think, we worked well as a team. We will continue to work well as a team. And with all the accomplishments that we've had, whether it be the kiosk, whether it be our emphasis on infrastructure, all the different things. I appreciate the mutual respect that each of us has for each other. Though, we're all different. We all have different skills and experiences, but we all have the common commitment to the town of Jerome. And that's wonderful, extraordinary, and something that I look forward to the next 2 years, that we're going to do more good things for the town of Jerome. Thank you, Mandy. And Jane, thank you. Shout out to you. I didn't want you to think that you're not as appreciated, because you certainly are. And thank you. I'd like to move on, if I may, to item 2C.
Point of order.
Of
Point of
course.
order. This is for all of the council members to make a statement.
Oh, there is? Okay, please go right ahead. Can we, let's start. You want Alex? Will you start with Alex?
I would like Sage to go before I go, if that's not a problem.
Not at all. Sage.
Oh, she wants me to go because she knows what I'm going to say. I'm not usually one to do long drawn out anything. I like to usually keep it short and simple, but I did make a statement. I did write a statement for tonight. I just want to say that it has been a pleasure to work with this council and this staff. We have accomplished a lot together despite the complications of the last year. And I look forward to the next 2 years and the possibilities ahead of us. But I especially want to say that it has been an absolute honor and privilege to be vice mayor to Mayor Alex Barber during these times. Nobody but Alex and I know exactly what we have been doing or been through for the last 10 months, because it has all been behind the scenes in Zoom meetings with county, state, and federal officials. This has a pretty good idea, as she was right there with us, but Alex and I were in meetings with each other when we weren't in the other meetings. The pressure and the stress were almost unbearable at times. From day one of this pandemic, we automatically started working as one for the benefit and the safety of this town. For the first 6 months, information was coming fast and hard with meetings every day, even on the weekends. Some days there were 5 or 6 meetings with overlapping times and we had to split the load. We were putting in 60 and 70-hour weeks. We each gave until we thought we had no more to give. Then we would prop each other up and keep on going many times. Talk about a quick fire challenge. Wow. We were busting our asses while everyone else was in a waiting mode, making the hard decisions with the little information we had, working night and day to keep the people of this town safe. And just as things seemed to be calming down, something else would emerge that we had to deal with, like helping the food bank or the BLM protests and the food distribution from the haunted hamburger at the drop of a hat. And I want to say much thanks to Alan Muma for keeping that food in this town when it was on the way out. And everything that he has done behind the scenes during this pandemic. I am not telling you these things in search of accolades. I am telling you because in November of 2018, when I was sworn into office for my first term, I stated that I would do everything in my power to make sure that this town kept running correctly and not to hurt it. Unfortunately, there are times when you really are powerless, like in a pandemic. Just know that Alex and I did do everything in our power to keep this town going and safe. And even though we will not be mayor and vice mayor this term, our votes still count the same, and we will both continue being who we are and doing what we do, which is loving and protecting Jerome. I also want to put in a special thanks out. I'm going to mention Alan Muma again, Rusty Sanfelice, Candace Gallagher, County Supervisor Randy Garrison and his assistant Brandy Bateman, as well as the mayors of Clarkdale, Cottonwood, Sedona, and Camp Verde for their unwavering concern and dedication for the citizens of the Verde Valley. They have all given of themselves extensively and tirelessly in order to keep us all safe and healthy. Thank you for voting me back in.
Thank you so much, Sage. Thank you, thank you.
Thank
Mayor,
you, Judge.
Alex, would you like to
I
say a
do
few
have
words?
a few words. I want to thank the citizens of Jerome who voted this entire hardworking council back into office for this term. I want to thank Candace. I want to thank the council, staff, volunteers, and everyone who dedicates time and energy on keeping Jerome a wonderful community. I also want to tell everyone that as COVID numbers climb and with the holidays right around the corner, I urge everyone to remain vigilant in protecting yourselves through the winter months. I also cannot lie and say my time as mayor was fun, but it is an experience I will never forget, and I did learn quite a lot. However, I will point out that I thought this was going to be a sigh of relief to not have to do this anymore. But as a mother with a child, after being the POTUS, the mayor, I'm here to help you, Jack, however I can. So again, I am very protective of Jerome. I've lived here my whole life. And after being the mayor, I just expect the best out of every council member that sits up here. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Alex. And I mean, the Sage, Jane, Mandy, the team that is here, I can't think of a better council to do good things. And I thank you all.
And
it's like
Jack,
I
does
say-
Jane have a statement that she'd like to read as well?
I
Who-
do, not
Yes,
to
please.
read, just to say, and I'm going to keep it brief because I know we have a long meeting. And I just want to say how wonderful and a privilege it was to work with this council, and looking forward to 2 more years. I think it's been a great council to work with. Everybody's been respectful, and we'll talk out differences of opinions to come to a decision. And Sage and Alex, I can't thank you enough for what you did through the COVID crisis. It's just, no one realizes. And I'm looking forward to having meetings back in person again. And I think, Alex, you were a great mayor. And I really like the fact that when we were meeting in person, that you listened to everybody and gave everybody a chance to speak. And Sage, you did great as vice mayor as well. And I think this has been a really fun council to work with. And I've worked with a lot of councils now, 16 years of council membership. So thank you
Thank you, Jane. It
and
was
good
hard
luck.
for me- It's hard for me to keep tears streaming out of my face when I get thanks like this, because being as the mayor for 2 years, the thanks were few and far between. So thank you.
No, thanks, Alex. All of you raised the bar. And I'm, like I said, I'm just honored to be on the team. We've sort of switched positions a little bit, but we're the same team. And I think I appreciate everybody's commitment to Jerome. And like Jane, I agree with you. We're going to do great work, and I'm going to try to make sure we have a little fun in there too, as you know. So thank you. And one thing before we move on to item 2C, one thing in my remarks, I just want to remind people that are listening and to all of us, tomorrow is Veterans Day. And I think, we need to make sure that we take a moment tomorrow to honor those men and women that have served us, that have given their lives for us, and that continue to keep America special and great. So remember, I know our offices will be closed tomorrow, but in recognition of a very special celebration of our veterans. Thank you. Yeah, I'd like, if no more comments from any of our council members, I'd like to move on to item 2C, Resolution 607, designating signatories for our town bank accounts. Candace, I'd like to have you guide us through this, please.
Generally, the tradition has been that the signatories on the accounts consist of the mayor and vice mayor and me, and in the past, also the deputy clerk. I'd like to bring Rosa on also as a signature. It will help streamline things for us. So I just need the approval of the mayor and vice mayor to be signatories on the account, and then the approval of council to adopt the resolution.
I certainly approve I being a signatory. Mandy, your thoughts on yourself?
I'm good with that as well.
And to count, do we need a motion for that?
You do.
To add?
Yeah.
we
No,
add-
Jackson,
Just
can I
move-
ask the question of Candace for clarification first
Of course.
before you call the question? So Candace, you have always been a signer. Was Joni a signatory when she was our deputy clerk?
She was not, but she was heavily involved in the finance department, and that's why she was not a signatory.
Okay, so usually the vice mayor or the mayor signs and then you sign. So there would be no way that both you and Rosa would sign without someone off the council. It would be one of you or the other, correct?
That's the plan, only in an emergency. When Rosemarie was deputy clerk, she was also a signatory, and there were rare occasions that we had to get something out right away. We would clear it with the mayor, and then both of us would sign.
I just wanted to make sure checks and balances were still in place was the
Yeah.
only reason I would bring it up.
Thank you. And Sage, you have a question or comment?
Yes, I do have a comment. Let me get my hand down. Just from the years that I have worked in the financial side of things, in accounting and bookkeeping, I have a little bit of problem with, and it has nothing to do with Rosa. It has nothing to do with Candace. It's just a checks, like Alex said, it's a checks and balances thing. And I really don't think that it's a good practice to have two people in the office that can sign a check. They could sign a check together and none of us would ever even know it went out, and it leaves. And like I said, this has nothing to do with either one of them. I mean, we could have a different deputy clerk next year. We could have a different town manager next year. It just leaves it open for the possibility of embezzlement.
It's not necessary to have Rosa on there, I have to say. It was just an effort to if we couldn't get a signature and we had to get a check out, that's why.
Yeah, I have a little bit of issue with that.
Okay.
Jane or Mandy, any comments? No? So do we have a?
So I would say somebody could move the resolution with the inclusion of Dr. Dillenberg, Mandy Worth, myself, and we'll eliminate Rosa from the fourth signatory.
Right now, we can always add her later if we
Yeah.
decide that's something we want to do. So let's have, a motion. Yes, Jane.
Oh, I was just going to defer to Sage's comment.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So we have a motion that needs to be seconded. The motion being that the signatories be the mayor, vice mayor, and city manager. Is there a second, please?
I'll
Second.
second that. We'll both second that, Jack.
Okay, there you go. We have this 2 seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion carries. So the signatories will be the mayor, vice mayor, and Candace. Thank you. Moving along to financial reports. You want to take us through that, Candace?
Well, actually, Melanie's online. I would-
Melanie's online, Moneybags. Oh, where I didn't see her. Sorry, Melanie.
You're muted, Melanie. There you go.
Yes, hi. Usually I just
Hi.
wait for questions if anybody has any.
Any questions for Melanie?
Sage has
Yes,
her hand up.
Sage.
Yeah, I don't have a question for Melanie. I just want to bring to everyone's attention that the last couple of months since we started doing ordinance changes, that our legal expenses have gone up excessively over budget for planning and zoning legal fees. Last month was 2,700 and this month is 2,900 when we only budget 1,250. So we might want to consider maybe slowing down and taking a little piece at a time instead of trying to do so much all at once so that we don't kill our budget this year, because we're already over for year to date.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, the action that we need to take on the financial report, do we need to take any action on this, Candace?
Yes, you just approve the financial reports, yes.
Can I get a mo-
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Aye.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thanks,
Thank
Melanie.
you.
Stay safe.
Thank you, Melanie.
Let's move on to staff and council reports, please. Candace.
Okay, I'll go over my report. It was COVID-19 again, every twice a week forever. I finished the closeout documents and the reimbursement request for our rural development grant for the windows at the Hotel Jerome. That's now complete and we've got the money. So we're on to whatever's next there. I submitted initial documents for our new CDBG grant for the Dundee, Deception, and Holly waterline improvements. So that's now underway. I submitted some preliminary information, which I did send you all a spreadsheet to DEMA for COVID expenses to date. That hasn't been formally submitted yet. I wanted to send it to the consultant there to have him take a look at it. And he did make some comments and send it back. And I'm going to be sending a formal reimbursement request soon with some added expenses that have happened since the time that I developed that first spreadsheet. I did submit a report to the prosecutor regarding the illegal use of our town logo, and I haven't gotten a report back from him yet on that. Drafted 2 versions of the ordinance regarding recreational marijuana during our meetings in the last month. The first one was an ordinance I drafted to allow retail sales, and the second one, which is on tonight's agenda, is to prohibit retail sales. And other than that, it's been business as usual with the Town of Jerome website and the Facebook page, different items that come up day to day, which is always an adventure. And the water flows are okay, and the sales tax revenues continue to be rather astonishing. We were, so far this year, in the first 3 months of the year, we're $61,000 above budget in what we brought in, and $17,700 under last year, which is really not bad considering that we've got several businesses closed. And then just one other thing, the burn pile was burned yesterday. So finally we were able to burn the burn pile and people will be able to dispose of that
Awesome.
kind of stuff soon.
Thank you. Any questions of Candace? No. Thank you. Next.
Dr. Jack, I do have my hand raised when you
I can't.
decide
see-
it's okay?
Thank you, Mandy.
Sorry, Mandy, I missed that.
With your permission, Mr. Mayor or
Yes,
Dr. Mayor? I'm gonna have to get used to that.
Jackie works just fine.
Um, not on Candace's report, but on other staff reports if possible.
Of course.
And whether answers will exist or not, I'm not sure, but I want to throw my questions out there.
Please.
On the fire department report, in the incident logs, I noticed several illegal fires. Down near the bottom of the incident report, there's 3, and it notes that it's resident. My questions are, I guess, do we cite that? Do we give them a fine? Is there a citation for an illegal fire within town limits? And it's something that I've not seen on this list. So I don't know if anybody has any information. I'm just curious if this is a new thing, if it's one person, if it's a, I don't want to see this happening on a regular basis. And so I'm trying to figure out how we could mitigate the situation. My other things, because I don't know if there'll be answers. On the police report, I noticed that we got an unexpected RICO distribution of $15,000, and I'm interested and excited that we got this, but also interested in any plans on how that funding is going to be used, because I know there's restrictions on RICO funds. And I would like to, based on the paragraph right before that in the chief's report about his retirement time, I would like to request that we possibly do an executive session with the chief. Personnel issues are an allowable topic for executive session, according to state statute, chapter 38, 431. And so I'd like to request that we schedule something of that nature, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. All good points. Any other questions or comments? I can't tell, Sage.
I would, Jack, a little bit of information on the reports.
Yes, please.
Alan isn't always at our meeting and neither is Rusty. I usually try to hit them with any questions from their reports on Monday via emails or phone calls. Sometimes I try to go through Candace. I mean, me and Candace go over things as well. So usually I used to ask Candace. A lot of times Candace has to dig. So instead of asking Candace, I just ask both chiefs and they usually come up with perfect answers if you just ask. So Mandy, reach out to the 2 chiefs and they'll give you information. I was also concerned with how many fires were in the fire department log. So I would also like some information, and I did not email Rusty. I will, and I'll find out a little bit more about those fires. Mandy, I will just forward his answer to you if you don't have time to ask him, so.
Awesome. That would be fantastic. I'm prepping for my husband's major surgery at like 6:30 tomorrow morning. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind the last few days. So
Yes,
if you
ma'am.
could do that, I would really appreciate it.
I'm hoping the best on you with your oral surgery too. I do realize you're going through a lot of stuff right now, Mandy. I wish you all the best, you and your family.
Thanks. I
Alex,
appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Alex, too, for stepping up on that. Appreciate it. Sage, yes, your hand's up.
I do know that at least one of those fires was a transient that was camping down by the cemetery and had lit a little warming fire for himself. I don't know if they cited him or not, but I do know that they went down and made him put it out.
Wow. Thank you, Sage. Crazy. Any other comments or anything, Candace?
Jane had her hand up, but she doesn't now. I have a feeling she was going to say the same thing.
I was.
And
Thank you,
Mandy's
Thank you, Jane. I didn't see
her
that.
hand up and doesn't now. So
Do we need to do a motion or anything to approve this?
you can make a motion to accept the staff reports. Yes.
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mandy. Is there a second, please?
Seconded.
Thank you, Jane. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
no? Ayes carried, reports accepted. I'd like to now turn to item 5, the zoning administrator's planning and zoning and design review report and minutes, please. Is John here?
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Mayor. We'll have to come up with a good title for you.
Jack is perfect.
Thank you. I know we have a lot on the agenda tonight, and a lot of people are here and interested in talking about other things. So rather than go through,
Brevity is good. Thank you, John.
rather than go through these individually, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I do take to heart the concerns about legal fees. I haven't seen the detail of what those all are, and I'll take a look at those and go over those with Candace. I think it's a great idea. Just a reminder, we do have a joint session coming up with P&Z and the council, and this would be a great topic to discuss, talking about prioritizing some of these code amendments, because it is a little bit of a handful. So let's work on that at the joint meeting. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Thanks, John. Any questions for John, council members? Yes, Jane.
Not questions specifically, but I listened to the audio of the last planning and zoning meeting. And it appears to me from listening to it that there's a lot of misunderstanding about ordinance amendments that the council has talked about with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I would urge everybody to please listen to the audio of that particular planning and zoning meeting. And hopefully by the time we have our joint meeting, we can clear up some of the misunderstanding, I hope. It was a little disturbing to listen to. And also I would like to see the resolution in the minutes. I realize this is just action minutes, but just seeing that the resolution was approved and not knowing exactly what the resolution was wasn't very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Any other questions or comments from council members?
Yes, I would just like to get clarification. Jane, are you talking about the P&Z meeting that was October 21st?
I am.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Thanks,
Dr. Mayor,
Yes. Members.
John, on your miscellaneous list, it notes met with current owner and new buyer Jerome Clubhouse.
Mhm.
I don't want it to take time with it tonight, but I would love to have some further information on that at next meeting, please. Because
So
I know
that-
that's kind of a transition of existing and new stuff. Just kind of an update on what's going on up there.
That sounds great. Just a really quick update or note. They are in escrow, and there still hasn't been officially sold yet, but they're in the middle of that process. So we've been working with them, answering questions, providing documentations and other information. But I can
Excellent.
give
So
you-
maybe after escrow closes.
Yeah.
That's kind of been on my radar quite a bit, as it's a housing project, and I just kind of want to see where we're headed with that.
Mhm.
And then
Sounds good.
also, in general, I guess this is more for Candace, the note about setting a meeting date with us to discuss code enforcement process and penalties.
Oh, right.
If we could get a doodle poll out, that would be amazing, because we're coming up into holidays and all that kind of stuff, where we'll probably have slightly tighter schedules in the next month or so.
Just
thank
a
you.
couple, if I may, Dr. Dillenberg, Dr. Mayor Dillenberg.
Simple. Keep it
Jack.
simple.
We talked about the possibility of, Candace and I have talked about the possibility of maybe even doing that at the joint meeting, or doing that at the next regular meeting, or we could set a special meeting. I think it is going to be tough with Thanksgiving coming up in a couple of weeks, as well as obviously Christmas. We may want to see if we can work that into one of our already scheduled meetings, but obviously it's up to the council what they want to do with that.
Any reaction to that, council members? No.
Sage
Okay.
has her
Yeah,
hand.
I've had my hand up for a long time.
I can't see you. I'm sorry, Sage. You went off my screen. Sorry.
Okay, well. yeah.
There you are. Okay, thank you.
I have a little bit of a statement that I want to make, and I was having trouble trying to figure out where I wanted to say this. I also went and listened to that meeting today, the October 21st meeting, and I'm going to have to agree with Jane. There is some serious confusion about what we're trying to get across to planning and zoning. We need to clear that up. But I also want to make a statement of my disappointment with the Planning and Zoning Commission. I want to thank John and Lance, who is the only person on the Planning and Zoning Commission who signed up to take a roles and responsibility of planning and zoning commissioners. And this is put on by the league. And in my opinion, when you fill out the application for planning and zoning, which we have 2 of, now this is not a requirement, although we may need to consider looking at our ordinance for this. But the second to last question, ask clearly if they are willing to read materials and take occasional conferences for training. And we have only 1 commissioner that signed up for something that this town pays for them to take training, and is only an hour and a half. And I'm really disappointed because it feels like we're struggling with planning and zoning. And I was really hoping that they would all jump on that and learn what their role is, so that we're not having, first off, miscommunications. And I think that this council has felt like maybe they're dropping the ball on some things. And that's why we were trying to figure out what we needed to do to get it working right. So I really feel strongly that the planning and zoning commissioners should be taking this class. I really felt like it should have been a mandated class for them. And that's my statement on this.
And I completely agree with Sage on that, Jack. I
Yeah.
think it is, it's very disappointing to think that that is something that people sit on the boards and they say that they're up for doing the best to their ability of the job that they were placed in. And to not try to take something like that, it's not like we're trying to shove meetings down their throat every week, every month, or even every year. So when you're on the boards, the more information that you have and the more procedure and ordinance and amendments and knowledge of what you're doing makes you look so much more knowledgeable behind that dais. I just really hope that I'm not hanging my head in shame, because I have not listened to the October 21st meeting yet. But sometimes I go like this when I listen to some things that are said. So I do not want to hurt anyone's feelings, but when you fill out an application to be on our board, please try to the best of your ability to do the job that you said that you were going to do. Sorry about
Thank
that.
you.
That turned into
No,
a
no.
rant, Jack.
No, that sounded excellent, Alice. I think Commissioner Romberger is going to be, what was the comment about that, John?
Commissioner Chuck Romberger signed up as well. I reached out to all the commissioners, of course. We're missing 1 commissioner right now, but I reached out to Jessamine Ludwig as well, and she's working that day or that morning, so she can't participate due to work conflict. And I haven't heard back from Henry Vincent, but we do have 2 commissioners, and perhaps whoever gets appointed tonight, we can add them in quickly too, possibly.
Great.
Mr. Mayor, may I follow up?
Yes?
My understanding is that is also something that we might be able to purchase as a town. Maybe it might be something that we consider having Candace check into, see how much it costs, if it's worth it, so that we can, from here on out, maybe have that for our commissioners, our oncoming commissioners, so that
Orientation.
understands their jobs.
Yeah, no, very good. Alex, great. Thanks, Sage. Thanks, Alex. I think that's really important points. And, when we all win in that scenario, we all win. So I think certainly a good suggestion.
Mandy has her hand up.
Sorry, Mandy. I couldn't
And
see.
Jane.
Mandy?
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I changed. I finally got the headphones that fit the new phone, so I've changed into this.
Mhm.
I definitely want to agree with Alex and Sage on this. I mean, as newly elected officials, we take newly elected officials training. We take retraining. Our staff is consistently doing updates and new trainings. Sage just took the grant writing class. We're consistently doing those kind of things, and it is part of our job description to be up to date and paying attention and aware of things. So I just want to join in that chorus there about that. If we want volunteers, but they do need to recognize that there are occasional times where they'll have to do that training. I think Sage's idea of looking into whether we can purchase that, where they can do it anytime we get somebody new, or if they feel like if we or they feel like they need an update, I think that's a great idea. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mandy. And I agree, Sage, a great idea. And so Candace, if you would, as direction from the council, look into that, see if that's a possibility that we can get that and offer that to new members of the, thank you so much. Great discussion. John, you're done, I guess. Any,
Yes, thank you.
I think we need now approval of item 6, approval of the minutes. And I think, are we just going to focus on the October 13th meeting? Is that my understanding, or are we going to discuss the also the approval for the October 8th special meeting session?
If I may, I would like to suggest we table the closed session minutes.
Yeah.
I speak to a council member today that wants to get a little more information on those,
Okay,
and I can present them again at the next meeting. But you could do the October 8th and the October 13th together or separately,
Yeah.
however you wish.
I'm fine.
Jack, can you separate them? Because I have a couple problems with 2 things on the 13 minutes.
Yes, thank you
I
so
have
much,
one as
Alex.
well.
We will do that. So we approach the October 8th first then?
Yes,
Get that
please.
done? So for any discussion, corrections or additions, modifications for the October 8th? I see Sage's hand.
Motion to approve October 8th. I have my hand up for the 13th. Sorry.
Thank you. No worries. It's good. Thank you. It's good.
And I
Is there a
second Jack. It was me.
Okay, good. And Alex second. Any further discussion on the October 8th minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, accepted the October 8th minutes. Now moving to the October 13th regular meeting minutes. Alex, would you like to address the issues that you have, please?
I would. Item number 3, staff and council reports in the minutes. To the middle of, or actually at the bottom of the second paragraph, or second up from the bottom, first up from the bottom. The bottom says she also reported that she and Councilmember Worth had met with Chloe Van Hoos and Mr. Backrack and discussed the available grants to support the renovation of the building. I believe, and I did not listen to how I actually put it in the recording, that I had talked about me and Chloe meeting with Hunter on site, and that we were having a meeting that was including Councilmember Worth that we ended up postponing because of Mandy's dental things. We have not yet held that meeting. So for some reason, this seems like I only talked about one meeting when I talked about 2. One that had happened, and this one that was mentioned did not happen yet.
Yay, thank you, Alex. That was my note too.
So how would you like that to read, Alex?
But it can say that I had reported that I had met with Chloe and Hunter to discuss the hotel. And then we had planned a meeting that included Mandy. You don't
Okay.
have to say that
All
it
right.
didn't happen, but that was a meeting that I had spoke of that we had planned. And you're welcome to listen to the recording and see exactly how I had written it. I just didn't, or had said it. I didn't have time to listen to it. I apologize.
Okay, we'll fix that.
No, it's fine. Thank you. And
Then
Sage, did you have an additional comment?
I have one more.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Alex.
On the item number 10, it's the to and from the council in those same minutes. Down at the bottom, the last paragraph, actually not the last, the last paragraph, halfway through the paragraph, it talks about how I had talked about the Forest Service. The thing that I have a problem with is it says I talked about a public meeting on public use of public lands. I don't think that I ever said that it was a public meeting. I had talked about how we had talked about public use on public lands, and Randy Garrison was trying to get a meeting in the works for us to have a meeting. I don't know if he was planning on public or not. I never said that.
Okay.
And I don't know if this meeting is ever going to happen if Randy Garrison is not reelected, because he had kind of pushed
Right,
this meeting
exactly.
down the road, which it says here. She said Mr. Garrison wanted to wait until after the upcoming election. It looks like Randy's losing at this point. So, but I just want that a public meeting on public use of public lands. I don't think I ever called it a public meeting.
We'll take out that word.
Perfect. And that's
Thank you
all
for
I
the
have on that.
clarification, Alex. Thank you. And
Sorry,
Sage,
that sounded really confusing.
Say-
no, sorry,
Hand up.
Sage.
Okay. Hi. So item 9D. And we are in the, underneath the motion to break.
Mhm.
And we go into the second sentence. It says Ms. Gallagher reviewed details of the ordinance and said she had met with Mayor Barber and Vice Mayor Barber.
That's a busy young lady there, Alex.
That's really doing double
What were you
duty.
going to say?
That is cute because I totally missed that.
I did
I
too.
love it. I love
Not
it.
at all.
We might want to frame that and put that up on the wall. I like that.
Is
Thank
that-
you, Sage.
That's all I have.
I love it.
I
Perfect.
have two corrections also.
Yes.
In that same number 9D, and this was after a conversation with Jane Moore earlier today. About 2/3 of the way down, there's a paragraph that starts, Ms. Moore said she had not researched. She actually didn't say that. So we're just gonna take out the words, had not researched what is happening in other towns and what issues could arise, but. So it will read, Ms. Moore said if Jerome is the only place with retail in the Verde Valley, she wondered if the traffic and crowds. So we're just gonna, is that okay with you, Jane?
Well, what I did, what I think I said, because I mentioned having called the clerk in Clarkdale and what they said they were doing, and that I did not know what the other towns were doing. And that may be where that came from. But
Okay,
Clarkdale said they were addressing it with an ordinance.
Thank you, Jane.
okay, we'll fix that. We'll mention Clarkdale and that you didn't know the other towns then.
Thanks, Candace. Any other additions or corrections?
One more.
Yes, oh, sorry, Candace. Yes, please.
It's
I
probably.
watch you all the time.
Yeah, on the next page, it's the page right after that. Again, about 2/3 of the way down, Ms. Moore asked for clarification from Mr. Sims that if marijuana is prohibited, what she meant to say was if retail sales of marijuana are prohibited.
Yeah.
And I think the next part of the sentence doesn't need to be there. It would just be, Ms. Moore asked for clarification from Mr. Sims that if retail sales of marijuana are prohibited as a nuisance, then the town is in a stronger position. That clarifies things a little bit, I think. Is that good with you, Jane?
Well, we did talk about if we did that, not being able to regulate it if we went that direction.
If we prohibited it through the zoning ordinance, that's
Right.
missing there. So we could add that in then.
That's okay, Jane?
Mhm.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you.
So I think that's it, I hope.
We get a motion to approve the modified minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Alex. And the second, is that Sage?
Yep.
Thank you,
Yep.
Sage. Any further discussion, correction before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes as modified are accepted. Now we move to item 7, petitions from the public. Candace, what do we got?
We have one petition from John Bartel regarding the National Historic Landmark.
Okay. I know that was distributed late today.
Uh-huh. And I don't know if he's online. It's. hard
John,
to
are you
tell.
here somewhere?
John Bartel, are you here?
I didn't think he was coming. I thought it said on there that he wasn't going to speak. He just wanted to
Okay.
submit. So,
All right. Well, he did provide information that I provided to all of you, basically that seemed to show that nobody has ever lost their.
Hello?
Oh,
is that John?
Hi, guys. Sorry.
Hey,
I'm
Good.
sorry. I've lost my little icon of myself here. So,
that's all right.
no, I wanted to just respond to a conversation Jane and I had a couple of meetings ago, whereby I said that we were discussing the ordinance related or the monies that we're going to get to rewrite our I guess design and review codes for the town. And I had said that really we have no risk of ever really losing our National Historic status because really basically no town has ever in the history of the National Historic Program lost their status. 35 sites have lost their status, but of those 35 sites, 71% of them were either burned, demolished, dismantled, sunk, and then were scrapped. 14% were converted to a National Historic Place. 9% were specific buildings. And then 3 other ones, one was turned into a golf course, one was turned into Soldiers Field, the NFL stadium, and one had its ivory looted. So not a single town in the history of America has ever lost its status as a National Historic Site. So I think we need to keep that in mind, and why it's important is because I believe that everyone should be able to do what they want to with their own property. And so whatever codes we write and whatever we do, I think we need to be sensitive to the property owners and make sure that, we protect their rights as well as, obviously the town's a unique place, but we don't need to ever be concerned that we will ever lose our status as a National Historic Site. It just can't. It just has never happened. If it happened in Jerome, we would be the first in the whole world. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that very clearly. And I gave you the materials and you can look through it, and you're more than welcome to follow the web links to make sure that you understand it very clearly.
Thank you, John.
You bet.
Any, yes, Jane. Jane has a hand.
This is not to do any kind of discussion, but it was my understanding from SHPO that Tombstone had lost or had the potential to lose its status because they were building buildings that were replicas, copies of old buildings, and they were being considered to be removed, to have their historic landmark status removed. It was not done, but they had a discussion about what types of buildings they were building, and that's all.
Sure.
For clarification.
Thank you for your input.
I understand.
Any further discussion? Thank you, John, for making us aware of that and for being here this evening.
No problem.
I'd like to move on to item number 8, council member. This is the Cocodona 250 race. And I think we're going to be getting a Steve Adaholt will address the council. Is he here?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Did you want? I have some questions and concerns about this myself, but I'm certainly happy to hear what you have to say.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to be present tonight at the council meeting. My name is Steve Adaholt. I'm an employee of Aravaipa Running and the race director of the Cocodona 250 running race, which I'm going to be presenting on tonight. You should have hopefully a packet, a color printed packet, information about the race. Basically, I'm just going to go through that at a high level, and then we can go through some questions, whatever you have, happy to answer. First of all, Aravaipa is a family-owned business based in Phoenix. Jamil Curry, the president and founder of the company, is also on the line with us if we have questions for Jamil. We have over 30 races, mainly in Arizona, but also in Utah and Colorado, and we are well respected worldwide for organizing high quality events, and it'll be no different for the Cocodona 250. We expect the Cocodona 250 to be one of our flagship races, and Jamil and I are both very proud to showcase the beauty and the history of Arizona with this race. One of my goals as the race director for this race is to ensure that there is a minimal impact to the residents of Jerome, including super high COVID safety standards for the race, but also through Jerome. Okay, so what is this race? The Cocodona 250 is a 254-mile running race from Black Canyon City to Flagstaff. Page 3 of that packet that you have shows a high-level view of the course. Much of the course is on single track, rough, rugged single track terrain, but there's also a fair amount is on dirt roads and then some even on pavement. And believe it or not, 200-mile plus running races are becoming quite popular in the US. In 2021, there will be 7 races. Hopefully Cocodona 250 is one of them in the US. This is a running race. It's not a bike race. It's not a relay race. Each runner will cover the full 254 miles. And they'll have 5 days to complete the race. It starts Monday in Black Canyon City, and they have until Saturday morning to complete the race. Most of the runners will take about 4 days, and most of the runners, this is a common question, but most of the runners will sleep 1 to 4 hours each night of those 4 nights and cover 60 to 70 miles during the day. So these are super serious, experienced ultra runners. Most of the runners will have a support crew, though their crew will be able to access runners at specific aid stations along the course. One of those we're proposing is in Jerome, and I'll go over that in a minute. This support crew is not allowed to support their runner anywhere along the course, even if that runner is along a roadway. That I'll address specifically for Jerome again in just a minute. Okay, so the course through Jerome that we've proposed is on page 4. At a high level in the area, we've got an aid station at the top of Mingus Mountain, one in Jerome at the State Historic Park, and then another at Dead Horse Ranch. So aid stations on either side. So both the Mingus and the Dead Horse Ranch aid stations are major aid stations for us, meaning that they'll have more food options and there'll be a sleep spot for runners. The aid station at Jerome will be a little bit more scaled back. We're trying to get runners in and out of Jerome more quickly with, again, the goal to minimize the impact on the citizens of Jerome. Specifically the route, so page 4, the route through Jerome, they'll come off of Mingus, come in on Upper Gulch Road. Jerome is about the halfway point of the race, so around mile 126. Come in on Gulch Road, Upper Gulch Road, hit 89A. They'll have to cross the road to be on a sidewalk, and then they'll have to cross back across 89A to stay on that sidewalk because the sidewalk switches sides. Go through the main heart of town, take a right on Jerome Street, a left on UVX, and that'll take them down to the state park. Most runners will be at the state park for 15 to 45 minutes, fill up with water, eat something, and then get on their way again, headed out on Douglas and back to 89A to run on the sidewalk. And then at the hairpin turn there, headed downhill, jump off onto North Avenue, and then to Dundee Lane where they jump onto Verde X property. We do have John Latier here from ADOT, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about approvals at the very end, but that approval is not finalized with ADOT. We definitely want to get not only the council's opinion, but the discussion of the route, and then get a recommendation and approval from you guys and ADOT. Okay, so describing the runners as they go through the town. Yes, sir. Yep.
No, I was just saying, one of our members had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Jane, did your question?
I'm wondering where they're coming. Are they coming off the highway 89A onto the Gulch Road and running up the Gulch Road? Where are they coming from onto the Gulch Road?
Yeah, good question. So they're coming off of the top of Mingus. And then there's a number of trails, and I could give you the trail numbers, but they're coming onto trails.
Is it Allen Springs Road?
Yes, it is.
Wow, that's a rough. That's a rough.
It's actually, I mean, in terms of our race and our runners, it's actually a pretty nice runnable road from the way that we see it.
Have you gotten permission from the mining company who owns that road, most of that road?
So we have, yes, we've got permissions from the mining companies, and the Forest Service
Freeport
actually has,
McMoran.
well, the Forest Service actually has right of way on that road. But yeah, we've also gotten approval from the mining companies as well.
And can, usually when an outfit does something like that, they provide the signed liability insurance, that type of thing, provide that to the town.
Absolutely, yes, we're well versed in that. You know, there's 30 other cities we're passing through, 2 counties, ADOT, state parks. We're well versed with the insurance requirements, and we're happy to meet whatever the requirements are on that. Yep. Okay, so just a few more things, and then I'll wrap it up. By the time the runners get to Jerome, they're going to be very spread out, and most likely they'll be hiking. So our projections put the first runners to come through Tuesday, May the 4th at 10 a.m. And there'll be about a 32-hour window of runners passing through Jerome. Again, it's very spread out. It's not how you would anticipate a half marathon or marathon with just hordes of runners coming through. During the daylight hours, we're talking about 5 runners at a time in the city of Jerome, including the aid station. And then overnight, Tuesday night, there'll be more, maybe 24 or so runners in Jerome at any one time. I plan to put in place some serious rules for runners and crew passing through Jerome to ensure the minimal impact to the citizens of Jerome. And the biggest one is a focus on traffic not being slowed or stopped. So the runners are going to be on sidewalks. We're going to stop the runners, not traffic. Whenever there's a road crossing, we're going to make sure that the runners stop and cross when it's safe to cross. We're going to make sure that the runners maintain that they're quiet through Jerome, which actually I don't think that will be an issue, but we're going to put signs up to make sure that they're quiet through Jerome, especially nighttime hours. We're going to put in place rules for the crew vehicles to proceed directly to the state park aid station. So no pulling over to wait for the runners in any area of town, especially the residential areas. They just need to proceed directly to the state park. We're going to have quiet hours at the state park aid station, nighttime hours, and also any other focus that you want us to focus on, we're happy to do. I'm happy to go through the COVID safety protocols for the race. We've listed a few of the rules. If you're interested, we can talk about the COVID safety for the race and what AirVipa does in general. But that's kind of the high level of what we have. In terms of approvals, we do have preliminary approvals from all entities. We haven't finalized approval with ADOT. Again, I said we have John Latier here as well with ADOT. We want to make sure that Jerome and ADOT are on the same page when we get to approval. So there you go. There's my spiel.
Okay, thank you so very, very much. I got a quick question or comments, and then we'll turn it over to the remaining council members. I don't know if you're aware, but Douglas Road, that you're going to, there are no sidewalks on Douglas Road.
Right. Yeah.
So that just there are no sidewalks there, so that's a potential danger, and I don't know how ADOT feels about that. And in town, I appreciate your mention that there won't be 8 cars. See, very often, like in the marathon, you got a car or a bicycle or someone with the runner providing water, providing this. What about restrooms? You going to have any porta potties set up or things like that? Or that's one of the things in our town. It's pretty limited. We have maybe 3 public toilets in the whole town downtown that are available. It's not like going into Prescott or a bigger community. So that was something that crossed my mind. I think the pandemic COVID issue is a big one too. We're very sensitive to mask wearing, social distancing, and protecting our citizens. We have an older population, so attention to detail on those things is very critical. And I didn't know whether, just as a curious thing, as the new mayor, is there anything in it for the town? What's in it for us besides, providing the space for you? I don't know. I don't know what your history is, or whether you do things, whether you provide a scholarship, whether are there, I don't know if there are any financial, do people pay to enter the race? I don't, you work for a company that's for profit. So I'm just curious about that. And with our council to see, an ADOT may be there and say, yes, you can do it because it's a public road. But I believe as a town, we're able to put some event criteria in place if we believe that they're important for the safety of our citizens. So we can talk about that as well. But anyway, I just wanted to make the comment about Douglas. Any questions, any follow-up to my comments about porta potties, running through town? And do you have anything that you folks are thinking would benefit the town of Jerome in getting us involved in this?
Mayor, I wanted to let you know that John, I think Bartel, Sage Harvey, and Mandy Worth all have their hands up.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I didn't see any of that, so let's go to the questions then. Who is first?
I don't know.
Sage, let's go with you.
Okay.
And then we'll get to John, and then we'll get to Jane.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is about the support vehicles. Will they be following them on Allen Springs Road and the Gulch Road?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, great question. They're going to be coming from the top of Mingus on 89A, proceeding directly to the state park. They're not driving on that road. Yes.
That would be my concern, was the support vehicles
The
being
water
on
line.
these roads.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great question, absolutely. Yes, John.
Yeah, just quickly, I just wanted to say, I just think these kind of events are great to have, and wanted to thank Steve for, coming here and presenting for it. So,
Thank you, John.
but generally, that's it. That's all.
Appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Now, Jane, did you have a question?
Okay.
Comment? Go ahead, Jane. You're muted.
She's
I
getting-
need to unmute myself. I do think that we should require to see that Freeport McMoran has signed off on this, because it is on their property on Allen Springs Road. Only about a mile, a little over a mile is actually Forest Service, and the rest of that road, at least after Copper Chief Road, is mining company property. And also the town has actually jurisdiction on that road. So the town would need to have, I believe, Candace, maybe you can answer this also, to see some copy of liability insurance and permission.
Right. I think Steve and I had that conversation a while back about insurance, and I would like to see copies of all of the permits that you've gotten, ADOT,
Absolutely.
mining, Forest Service, county, whatever other permits you've already achieved. I would like to see copies of those if you could, please.
I'm happy to provide those, and absolutely will. It's not something that I have now. These permits, especially in the time of COVID, are taking a long time, but absolutely, that's
Great.
we can make.
We do have time, since this is in May, so we'll probably have one more discussion after the presentation, your nice presentation this evening. But I want to get to Sage's question or comment, and then I don't know if there are any other hands up as well.
Mandy has had her hand up.
Oh, Mandy, I'm sorry. Sage, let me get to Mandy. I just didn't see her, if I may.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Thank you,
Sorry.
Steve, for presenting. I agree with John Bartels on this. These kind of events are great. We have so few things happening, especially in our rural areas and in this COVID moment, that are something that people can get excited about, and something that particularly athletes can participate in. And this is the kind of spaced out type of event that I like to see happening. I also agree that we would like to, I would like to see the liability for town, because it is going on some of the town owned streets. And the agreement with Freeport, they're one of our major partners, and I want to make sure that they're happy, because if we're not happy, they're not happy. And if they're not happy, we're not happy. It's a great partnership we have with Freeport, but we definitely try to be respectful of each other. I think my only question or concern really might come down to an ADOT question. And that crossover from Upper Gulch Road over to, where Holly and East and 89A and Upper Gulch come together, that's a pretty sharpish blind curve, especially at night. And
Join the
again,
meeting.
Again, the same over by the Methodist church there. And so I just want to make sure that we are providing, I recognize that it's going to be runners stopped, not traffic, but I just want to make sure that everybody is safe on those two blind areas, because even just, in general, walking, I walk from the high school up to 4th and Center on a regular basis, and those are pretty blind curves. So I just want to make sure that everyone is safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sage, I see Sage's hand, please.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna do almost a little follow-up to that, because I just want to let you know that emergency services out to those roads that you're coming in over Mingus into the Gulch, the Upper Gulch, can take quite a long time for our first responders to get out there to help anybody if anybody gets hurt. It's usually a 45-minute to an hour call time if someone's hurt out there. So you might want to keep that in mind and make your runners very aware that it is a sketchy area.
Thanks, Sid. We've routed evac roads, I guess, out of Clarkdale up there is the kind of the one access point. You're right, it is hard to get up there, but yeah, we're well aware. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wanted to let you know that I believe John Latier of ADOT is sitting in on this
Yes.
meeting, if you wanted to ask him any questions about this, or if he wants to make any
I'm
statement.
here.
Hey, John, thank you for joining us this evening. And did you have any comments or additions, corrections, or anything you'd like to share?
Actually, I really appreciate the comments that you're making. They're very helpful. In regard to the crossover location on the curve, I was planning on going to Jerome and actually checking those locations myself. I haven't done that yet, but that's been on my list of things to do. I wanted to let you know that when we started speaking with AirViper Running, ADOT's basically looking to, leaning toward approval of the permit. But one of the things we were looking at is there's about 8 locations where the race course is going to cross ADOT highways. So we have several locations to check out. The locations are there's a couple in Prescott Valley, and then Jerome, and then Cottonwood, Sedona, and Flagstaff. And the reason we're here talking with you today is from ADOT's perspective. Obviously, ADOT's perspective, public safety is priority. So we want to make sure that the traveling public is safe. And the biggest impact that this race will have is in the town of Jerome, which is why we wanted to get together with you. The other locations, the race course simply crosses under the highway through a culvert or under a bridge and so on. So Jerome kind of has the most significant impact in terms of runners and us ADOT sharing the space with the local agency. So we didn't want to come in and go ahead and approve something and then have it maybe have Jerome have questions about it. So we wanted to make sure we did this together.
Thank you, John.
We have had some experience in the past with a couple of the events like the Race Across America bike race that comes through Jerome. And we've worked with that group to give them very specific rules that they have to put in their race packets. And we're using that experience to work with AirViper to work with them on some of the issues. Like we want to make sure that the race crews don't impede traffic, that obviously that the athletes are safe. You mentioned the crossover locations. We want to make sure we define those so that it can be the safest race possible.
John, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Well, I think, and again, I'm just being a selfish new mayor. And, in this political world we're in, it's crazy, isn't it? But nonetheless,
Understood.
I'm just curious whether there's an opportunity in the crossover in particular. You know, I'm concerned that we're always concerned about locals and visiting safety. And what's the possibility of putting a little crosswalk across there? Some painted lines. I know ADOT has not been in favor of that kind of thing in the past. I don't believe, that's my understanding. But I think if we can do that, that will have a long-term effect of helping safety, slowing traffic down, protecting pedestrians, and at the same time providing a place like right there at the crossover, the road we're talking about there, where Holly East and Gulch Road sort of come in to 89A, a crosswalk at that blind curve. So it's a, you know the curve I'm talking about there as you come up.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and that's always been a tough spot. And if we can get a benefit there, that will have a long-term effect, and I think it'll be great PR for the company, and it would be certainly tremendously helpful for us if, in fact, that's something that you guys are able and willing to do. Help
Mayor,
us with.
Mayor, can I just caution you not to veer too far off the agenda here
Okay.
from the race?
Yes, we're listening to the race, but
Okay.
we're talking about, they were raising the question about crossing 89A, and I'm just saying, I'm just suggesting a safe way to cross 89A. Just a suggestion, but that's okay. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Candace.
You do ask a very good question, and I have in the past, in my career here in Prescott, I've held the position as the regional traffic engineer, and we have had studies with the town in terms of pedestrian crossings. And if you'd like, I can contact Candace, and we can revisit that again.
I would love it. Even just your thoughtfulness in having that conversation with Candace means the world to me. Because I know there's restrictions and difficulties in that, but I think if we can explore it as a possibility, I think it would be a great benefit to the town and the safety of the runners. And I think, you know, Steve, we want to be able to work with you to have a successful event and do it in a way that'll provide the safety for you and in some way benefit the town. And it doesn't, I'm not talking big deal, even in the PR, some PR or something. I think Mandy and everyone sort of mentioned it. You know, this is a great opportunity. We've suffered during the pandemic. Everybody has done the best they can to survive, but we appreciate your presentation. We appreciate working with you. And I guess, Candace, is there a time when we need a decision to say, yes, we're 100% in, or give you a chance to react to our conversation this evening so that then we can have our next conversation and come up with a decision?
We could put this on the December 8th meeting agenda for further discussion if you like, and if that works for Steve.
You know, that
Sure,
gives us
yeah.
time. That's the first and the second week of December. And it may give you an opportunity to see how we can collaborate in this thing, because Jerome's a very special place. We are the third most visited site in the state of Arizona after the Grand Canyon and Sedona, and that puts a big demand on us. So any opportunity for our collaborators, partners, to work with us is a tremendous benefit and help to us. So thank you. Great presentation. John, thank you so much for being here and the opportunity to look at enhancing our relationship with ADOT.
And Jack, I do have my hand up.
Oh,
I was
great.
just going to clarify. I don't think any of us are willing to make any decisions unless we see all those permits and all of the paperwork that we talked about. So kicking the proverbial can down the road until next month gives everyone time to get all those papers in place for us to look at before we make any decisions.
Yep, we're all on the same page, Alex. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, and that's great. We're happy to jump through and jump through the hoops, make sure that we have all the T's crossed and I's dotted. What I would suggest is that we could get, once there are things that we need to address and go over and get on the same page for sure. I've taken numerous notes here, but once those things are addressed, I think a prudent course would be preliminary approval based on getting everybody else. Because if you say, no, I won't give approval, then Sedona's waiting for your approval. Nobody will give approval. So, yeah.
I think we'll be in good shape if you could provide those documents. If John can, maybe see what magic he can muster, we'll be able to do something at our next meeting. We'll have definitely discussion. We'll see if we're in a good position to make a decision then. But you're not hearing any major opposition, so that's the good news. Now let's get the details to the point of satisfaction.
Mayor, Jane has her hand up.
So I can't see it. Sorry, Jane. Go right ahead.
Do we need to ask Bill Sims about what kind of liability, proof of liability or whatever we would need prior to that meeting as
Actually,
well?
I would reach out to our risk pool rather than. Bill.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I will do that.
Thank you, Jane. Good point. Absolutely. We need to cover our bases on this, but we'll see. You know, hopefully it'll turn out that it's a win-win-win all the way around. But good. Any other questions or comments from council members, please? Hearing none, thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate taking time. John as well. Good work, and we look forward to seeing you in December. Stay safe
you.
out there, please. Okay,
Thanks.
all the very best. Thank you. Moving on to item 9 on our agenda, ordinances and related resolution. And the first one in 9A is our first reading of ordinance number 463, an ordinance of the town of Jerome, Arizona relating to the transaction privilege tax, adopting the 2012-2014 amendments to the tax code of the town of Jerome by reference, establishing effective dates, providing for severability, that's a tough word, and providing penalties for violations. This is our first reading. Any discussion, please?
If I may, Mayor?
Yes, please, Candace. Of course.
This is something that the league sent to us recently. It is 2012 to 2014, but they're usually, behind a little bit in getting these to us. We will be getting the 2018-19 ones probably within the next few months sometime, but right now we need to adopt these. All the towns need to adopt it. We're not allowed to make changes to it. We have to adopt it as is, and we're required to adopt it. So it's basically housekeeping, and these provisions have been in effect already for years. So
Any action we need to take or just the first reading?
it's just the first reading, and the second reading will be at our December meeting.
Any questions or comments by council members, please? Thank you. Hearing none, I'd like to move on to 9B, resolution number 608, a resolution of the town council of the town of Jerome, Arizona, declaring a public record that certain documents filed with the town clerk and entitled, quote, the 2012 to 2014 amendments to the tax code of the town of Jerome, close quote.
Right.
Candace?
That is the reason we're doing this is so that we don't have to recite that entire tax code in the ordinance and publish it. So this makes it a public record that's referenced in the ordinance, and it saves us a lot of money for publication.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council members, please? Hearing none. Moving to item number 9.
Wait, we need a motion on that one.
Oh, we need a motion on this?
Yes,
May we have a motion, please, to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
And who's the second? Mandy? Was that Mandy?
Well,
Okay,
Mandy
thank you. I apologize. I don't have to face. Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No?
Just because you're mayor doesn't mean you can't make motions.
Okay, there you go. I'm motioning here. There you go. You got it. All okay, motion carries. Thank you so very much. Moving on to item 9C. This is a good one. First reading. Ordinance number 464, amending the Jerome Town Code to prohibit retail marijuana establishments. Yes, Sage. And then we'll get to Alex.
Okay, so, did you want to go, Candace?
I just want him to read the whole ordinance by title.
I thought I did.
Actually, look at the ordinance itself. I'm sorry, it's not listed fully on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize for that.
You'll have to
I can do it by title.
do it if you could, yes.
Okay, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Jerome, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the Jerome Town Code by adopting a new Chapter 19 recreational marijuana, establishing a purpose, setting forth definitions, prohibiting marijuana on public property, prohibiting marijuana testing facilities, prohibiting marijuana establishments, setting forth violations, providing for penalties, and declaring an emergency. There you go.
Thank you. Sage.
Sage, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get my finger to, I have had a nerve problem with my index finger since cutting a ton of leaves.
Oh,
I can't feel the end of my finger, so I couldn't get the mute button to go. So anyways, I'm all right with this entire ordinance except Article 19.6.
is that the one that I said? Actually, I need to get our attorney on the line. Let him know that he can zoom in because he was going to talk about that. So
Okay.
Thank you.
talk about other things in the meantime.
If you want to let whoever else had their questions, Jack, go ahead.
Mandy has her hand up.
Yes, Mandy, and then Alex.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. You know, sometimes we're in Jerome, we're a little more lackadaisical about paying attention to things. And between our last conversation on this topic and this one, there's been several public comments made in varying formats and on varying platforms. And I guess I'm curious, Candace, if you've received anything from the public, and secondarily, if there are any members of the public today who would like to make a comment before we move forward.
I have not received anything directly, no. But there are many people from the public online here tonight, so.
So I'm curious what the public feels, because a lot of the conversation that I was aware of, both people who have stopped me and discussed things, as well as things on social media platforms, is of a differing ilk than what this ordinance is going to do. So I just want to make sure that we are really truly listening to what our members of the public are saying. Thank you.
We have John Bartel has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so are we prohibiting marijuana sales in the town for the purpose of being able to regulate it more properly in the future? Or are we doing it because we don't believe marijuana sales is a good thing for the town? That's my first question.
I think the second, from my perspective, the second part of your question is the answer. We don't think it's a good thing.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit of both, just to say.
Yeah.
So
No sales.
As well.
So it's the consensus of the council that marijuana sales is a bad thing for the town of Jerome.
Yes, that if you want to buy pot, you can go to Clarkdale or someplace else. Yes.
Okay. Now,
groceries.
Okay, I will say, you know, I came from Colorado, as you know, many of you know, and the town, you know, many towns elected initially to not sell marijuana at first, and then later they realized that they were missing out on a large amount of revenue, and it became a situation where when they were really late to the game, they had really lost out on any momentum in relation to that, and so it really was negative and hurt some small towns, and I think a little bit of research into that might be a good idea, because there was significant revenues, and I don't think that the town needs to fear that it's going, you know, we're going to become some kind of a hub for marijuana sales or distribution.
Yes, we will. That is a fear. That is a fear, and I don't believe that I don't think the money you think is available for us to make is going to be that much, and I don't think it's worth the squeeze. I don't want buses of people coming up here just to buy pot.
No, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Cottonwood is going to probably allow sales, and so I don't think anyone would take a bus here when they could buy it in Cottonwood. Now, I do believe that people, when they're here, just regular tourism, they would possibly want to buy some, and that may be the case. You know, I think now in reference to revenues, you know, my mom lives down in a small little town in outside of Phoenix called Youngtown, and they're pulling in, from what I heard, like $600,000 a year in sales tax from that.
For medical marijuana.
And that's a tiny little town.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna butt in, Jack.
Yes, please, Alex.
Our police lieutenant, Rusty Sanfelice, he thought this was the best way to go for Jerome. John just talked about Cottonwood and what they're doing. Cottonwood has made it to where it's dual licenses only, which means the only places in Cottonwood so far as what they have been working on that are going to be able to sell recreational marijuana are going to be dual licenses along with the medical establishments. The other reason why, after quite a few hours of deliberation from this council of trying to figure out how we could make retail work in our town, we decided against it. It's kind of like a lottery pick out of 26 licenses that we really don't have any pharmacies or much up here anyway. So I kind of thought that it was like a needle in the haystack that we would even get that option. So for us to save quite a bit of legal fees and to save quite a bit of what Jack is talking about, buses of people to come up here. The other thing about the social media that Mandy talked about, a lot of people are so misinformed by what the state law actually says that they are throwing hate on us and saying things like, oh, well, how many wine tasting rooms do you need? And you can drink alcohol up on the stairs on the park. That is not up to cities and towns to ordinance if you can smoke in public. So Lieutenant Sanfelice said it is a $300 fine if they perhaps buy from a retail establishment in Jerome and then start lighting up in the park. And I actually went as far as to say, well, we'll make money off the sales tax and make money off the ticket. But I just don't think that it was right for Jerome. We spent quite a lot of time on this. And again, our police chief, our police force, we just do not have the manpower to try to deal with if we were selling pot to people and letting them walk on the streets to keep them from not sparking up everywhere in the town, which they might already do anyway. I'm sorry, Jack, I rant over.
No, you did good, Alex. Is there anybody else with a hand up that I'm not seeing?
Well, John had his hand up, but I think that's left.
No, John, we got it. Yeah, it's not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
I'll take it down. I
Yeah,
just,
council does not want
I
it.
don't, to be clear, I mean, I don't smoke pot, but I know that a large percentage of the people here in Jerome do smoke pot.
Yes, and they eat
guys know
vegetables
that.
and things that they can buy in Cottonwood, Clarkdale. They don't get their toilet paper in Jerome, and they all use it so they can go down the hill and get stuff. Just like
Sure.
the pot. We do
Sure,
not
I-
want to sell pot in
It'll
Jerome.
reap the benefits.
Period.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you,
That's
John.
all
Thank you, John. Thank
that's
you.
all I have to say.
And
Appreciate it.
Mandy has her hand up again, and we have Bill Sims with us now too.
All right, council. Good.
I'd like to defer to the attorney about Article 19.6 for Sage's comment, and then I can discuss afterwards.
Right, and Bill, to just let you know, Mandy was, or one of you said they like the, or it was Sage, like the whole ordinance except for Article 19.6, and that's marijuana delivery prohibited. And I had noted on there that it was optional and that you would explain why you recommended that that be in there.
It's only, well, first of all, this ordinance, Candace called me. This ordinance allows you to prohibit retail, growing facilities, manufacturing facilities, and testing facilities. You're doing it in Article 19, not as a zoning matter. So you can pass this and avoid the old Prop 207. That's for the diminution in value, the kinds of things that were brought when we were doing the vacation rentals. So this is done out of public health and safety. It is not zoning. This is a model taken directly from the league. Candace modified it. I modified it. Right now, there's not much. Let's assume you have. Well, first of all, I think Alex is right. It'll be winning the lottery if you were to get a recreational marijuana. There's only going to be 2 per county, and that's only if you don't already have a dispensary, and you already have a dispensary in your county. So you're only going to get 1 more.
We don't.
In the whole county.
Oh, in the county, I thought you said town, okay.
No, in the whole county. This legislation was drafted by the owners of the current medical marijuana facilities, so they'd have a monopoly. They're going to get all of the recreational, and they're going to make a lot of money. This gives you the power to regulate, and that's what you're doing. The only reason this is here is the statute does let you limit deliveries into Jerome from, for example, recreational marijuana facilities in Cottonwood. You don't have to do this. There was just a lot of the jurisdictions that were putting a bright line of keeping it out of the town was doing this. But when I say keeping it out of the town, you're not encroaching on what the voters approved. And that is individuals in their home can now legally grow and smoke and consume marijuana products. And so that's what the voters proved. You're not limiting that at all. You are limiting it, smoking in the parks or in public roads. You are limiting that by this ordinance. So you don't have to you don't have to adopt 19.6. That just prevents other retailers from shipping into Jerome. It's not required. It's whatever you want. You don't need it.
Bill, when
Yes.
we talked about this, you mentioned the proliferation of marijuana cafes when we talked about this provision.
Well, it's pretty arcane. Here's the issue. And the gentleman was talking about being in Colorado. Colorado experienced, once you legitimize marijuana, you can have it anywhere. Now, your code says you can't have it on public streets, but the statute says you can consume it on private premises. So up in Colorado, what they did was shop owners were advertising you could come in and have a cup of coffee and smoke pot. And some law enforcement in Colorado found that for those jurisdictions who ruled it out, that this would not be wise. This would allow you to try, operative word try, because the act isn't crystal clear, but you would say that consuming and facilitating the delivery of marijuana products in a coffee house would be barred by this. But it's not crystal clear. This is an attempt to do that, but it's mostly an attempt to prevent delivery at all. But there has the indirect benefit of saying, let's assume you're bringing marijuana into Jerome, and delivery includes the word transfer, and you're then transferring it by handing it to your brother or your friend in the coffee shop. Then that you could try to prohibit it here, but I can't give you 100% assurance you'd be able to. And I don't know if you would offend the shop owners who want to do it. So bottom line, you don't need it. It definitely prohibits external sources from delivering, and it gives us an argument to try to bar marijuana cafes.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Any other
Can I
questions?
follow up with that then?
Yes.
And Mandy also has her hand up.
Mandy, okay.
So this is my concern with this. People over 21 are allowed to have marijuana. They're allowed to grow it in their home. They're allowed to possess it. They're allowed to smoke it. Say the little old lady that lives down the street has cancer and she's had her medical marijuana card all this time. And for some reason she can't afford to have her medical marijuana card, and she needs someone to bring her medicine. Say she can't get down to the dispensary. That's gonna basically prohibit. What if she doesn't know how to grow? What if she doesn't know how to do that for herself? And that's her medicine. And even though she doesn't have her medical marijuana card anymore, she doesn't have access to her medicine because she can't call the dispensary that actually does deliver and ask them to deliver her medicine. That is my concern with this, because personally, first and foremost, in my mind, marijuana is medicine. And even if a person can't afford to have their medical marijuana card, I think that they should have the right to have access to this medicine. And if they can't get to it, then I don't think that we should prohibit someone from delivering it to them if they need it. So that is my concern with this particular insertion here.
No, that's why Candace knows you all well. That's why it says that. This was my marching orders, and I think from the last council meeting, was come back with a prohibition and we'll consider it. This prohibits the big four that I talked about. And then I said, if you really want to prohibit it, for example, many of the jurisdictions in the East Valley are doing this. They don't want it delivered, but you're right. If this is a COVID environment and she can't get out, and irrespective of having a marijuana card, let's assume that someone is locked in their house because of COVID and wants to have it delivered, this would prohibit that. So no, you don't have to approve this, but I tried to give you the full envelope of options to restrict its use. But if you want to approve this, you would approve it without 19.6.
And Mandy has her hand up, Mayor.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Thank you, Sage. I had the same concern. Also, and I'm not sure if this is just a point or maybe Bill wants to weigh in on this. So, we're close to Colorado and they were the first state to do this. So a lot of us have kind of paid attention to how Colorado has put this forth. Being from Michigan, I've been watching what Michigan's been doing. And how some of the, specifically the small town, rural jurisdictions are handling it. And I see in a lot of their ordinances, notes about, articles that relate to cafes and either prohibiting or regulating those. And so I don't know if maybe Arizona's law is going to be so much different that we are unable to prohibit a cafe. And also, a lot of the stuff there allows, if you are growing for private use, you are allowed to gift up to a certain amount to someone who is over the age of 21. And I'm not sure how Arizona is planning on handling those two things and whether that's something that we should be concerned about and whether we are eligible to add those things into our ordinance. The personal use, private property grow gifting and cafes within the business district. Thank you.
There was nothing, Mr. Mayor, there was nothing that would prohibit the gifting. It would prohibit selling. The cafes, the reason we had to stretch to make that work is there's nothing in the act that would bar the use of marijuana in private establishments. So that's why I tried to capture it by, the way you would do it is we would call it, you were facilitating the delivery. And it's a bit of a stretch, but that's what some jurisdictions are trying to do to capture the cafes. Because you're not allowed to prohibit it in the statute.
Paige, did you have another comment or question?
A follow-up question. Isn't a cafe considered a retail business?
Yeah, but they're not selling it. That's the thing. All they're doing is people are coming on and they're allowed to smoke it when they're eating their donuts. If that's what you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Mayor, if I might. Sage, in Michigan, what's happening is you can't have on-premise consumption at the retail locations.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happened is other places have become consumption only.
Yeah.
And you have to bring in your own. And whether that place provides anything else for purchase or exclusively just a space, it's kind of sort of similar to like a smoking lounge or a cigar shop type thing.
Exactly.
Except for you're not purchasing it from the location in which you are consuming it. You are bringing your own quantity in from whether you grew that at home or whatever. Whether that's a location, because there's several restrictions, especially in the Michigan small town ordinances that require landlord approval, property owner approval to grow or consume on site, even for private property. So like if you rent a place, you have to have something from your landlord that is in writing or part of your lease. But also more of a social atmosphere kind of thing. Thank you.
And Candace, I guess as this is the first reading, so for tonight's action, if any, whether we want to leave it the way it is and then have the second reading at our next meeting, and between now and then review this a little bit more and see if we want to at the next meeting.
I would suggest, and I want to let you know that Jane has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Jane. Catch you in a second.
I would suggest that if you're going to want to remove Article 19.6, you make a motion to take that out of the draft ordinance before we move to second reading and do that at this meeting.
Okay.
And any other changes you might want to make,
Thank you. Jane, your question or comment, please.
This is to Bill, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
So cafes, is this in residential zones as well or commercial zones? And how is that dealt with?
Well, I don't think, Mayor, I don't think you could have a cafe in a residential zone. And so the way it works in Colorado is the proprietor of the donut shop or the cafe or the coffee house then advertises that you can come in and have a joint and eat a brownie, or just the opposite, eat a marijuana brownie and
Have a couple of brownies.
yes. So it would only be probably because you can't have a commercial enterprise in a residential. It would really only apply to in a commercial district.
Okay, so in other words, it's possible that, I guess another question for you. So the bars could actually say, oh, you're welcome to come in here and smoke pot, right?
Exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly. But here, for those who have the act, it's 3628. It took me a while to get it because I'm not a millennial and I don't use multiple screens very well. It says transferring 1 ounce. This is what's allowed. This is why you have to allow the marijuana cafe. This is allowed. Transferring 1 ounce or less, of which not more than to an individual who is at least 21, if the transfer is without remuneration. That's why a gift is okay. So what we're trying to do with those in the East Valley are trying to say, if you are telling people they have to buy a cup of coffee to be able to smoke their joint, I would argue that's remuneration. It's not a permitted transfer. Therefore, it's a transfer barred by the delivery, which you're prohibiting. But it's really back-ended, and knowing you guys, it isn't Jerome, and so. But I just tried to give you as many options to limit, not only just think about that Sage brought up, and I think Mandy did as well. I did prevent somebody like me. I'm in quarantine. I must admit, I grew up on a Marine base. I was in the Air Force. I've never had marijuana. I wouldn't even know what it is. But the point is, I wouldn't be able, if I couldn't deliver marijuana, I wouldn't be able to do it. And maybe you don't want to impose that on your neighbors. So but I had it in there to 1, prohibit delivery, and 2, to try to give you the ability to bar marijuana coffee houses. But knowing Jerome, I think some of you wouldn't mind having a marijuana.
So I just want, I know Sage had made a point about a neighbor and it might be affecting that person. Is there anyone here, any council member at this point wants to take that out of the existing ordinance?
I would like to.
You'd like to take it out also?
I think it needs to come out.
I agree.
I'm actually ready to make a motion that we should approve this with that taken out.
I have a
Okay.
couple of other questions if possible, Dr. Mayor.
Okay, well, it looks like you got the votes to take it out, so.
I just have-
You have to have a motion in a second.
I know. Well, we got a motion from Alex and a second by Sage
Okay.
to take it out, to approve it, but take it out. And discussion, we have Mandy is the first person with discussion.
I guess I have questions that are primarily for Bill. For things that I'm not seeing in this that I've seen in other states, small municipalities ordinances, and whether we're allowed to do that here or not. Landlord approval, property owner approval. I'd like to see that in here, even for growing on private property, because I've seen that in several small jurisdiction ordinances in at least 2 other states, where it requires that, yes, obviously the state is going to allow growing on private property, but if you don't own that property, that you have to have property owner approval. I think that that's probably really important. And I'm not sure if that's already in the state law or if that's something that we could add in here. And then the other thing I've seen is where, I don't even know how this would go, but essentially you cannot offer a place for consumption or advertise a place for consumption if that place carries a liquor license. And I don't know if we can do that here or not. So I guess those are my questions for Bill.
So we are constrained by the statute. What it says is, in the same statute that says, as long as you're not asking for any compensation, you can, if I'm a store owner, people can be smoking marijuana in my store. And so the point is, they don't define. It just says if you're 21 and you're not using more than the prescribed amounts, which was, I think, an
ounce. 1 ounce.
Yes, it doesn't matter if I'm renting a home, I still can grow and consume marijuana in my home. There's nothing in here that allows you to tell renters they can't. because they meet the definition, and and much like the individual in the store eating a brownie, if I'm renting a home, this act would let me consume marijuana in small amounts as long as I'm 21. And as long, well, no, and you can't sell it because at all.
Right. Jane has a question.
You asked another question. What was the second question?
So, okay, are you saying that Article 19-6, the marijuana delivery prohibited, then would say that you could not take this to a cafe then?
Well, it would give us an argument. You can't facilitate the statute says that the act now is going to become a statute says you can't facilitate delivery. And so the jurisdictions that are trying to bar marijuana cafes have adopted that kind of language. And what we're arguing is assuming there's remuneration, assuming the store operator is doing it to get people to come in and buy your coffee.
Well, if it's a donut shop, they're assuming you're going to buy donuts, right?
Well, that's exactly the point. And that's exactly the point. The way to test it would be, and I know Jerome would do this, would go in and smoke marijuana and not eat a donut.
Right. Well, and this is one of the reasons that I preferred doing this ordinance. I would like to see how this plays out in other places before it's so new here, and just to see what would happen elsewhere. And I'm sure there's going to be legal challenges to everything. And I don't know, I like the idea of not having it in places that sell alcohol, but I'm thinking if the delivery is a way to maybe not do the cafes.
That's what I tried.
Yeah, no, it was good. Bill, I think it's a good idea. That's just me. But any other question? Now, Mandy had the second question.
Yeah, Mandy had a second question I didn't answer.
What was that, Mandy? Do you know it, Bill, or do you have to hear it?
Prohibition of consumption in a place with a liquor license.
That's not in the statute.
And so could we make that?
No, the liquor board would have to. I mean, they preempted the field on that. And it may be.
Okay. We have a motion that's been seconded to approve this with that section taken out. Is that correct?
I didn't hear a motion. I might.
Alex and second by Sage.
Correct.
I did make a motion that we should approve this with taking Article 19.6 out, but I don't mind backtracking and leaving that in there if it is going to save us against everything that we just talked about.
I agree. I'm not in favor of it, just so you know. I would vote no on this if we do vote on it.
I would remake that motion if Alex is going to drop it, to take the Article 19.6 out.
Leave it in for the moment.
No, I want it out.
You want it out.
Okay, well, how about I keep my motion as it stands? I was the one that made the motion. Sage made the second. We'll call the question and then we'll go from there.
Was the motion to take it out?
Yes, I made the motion that we accept. Let me look on my thing of the resolution, that we accept ordinance number 464, but we take out Article 9.6A out of it.
Just remember that this is only a first reading. You don't really need to make a motion on it, but this motion would just be to correct the draft for the next meeting.
Okay.
And take 19.6, not 9.6.
Sorry, 19-6A.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 So we have 3.
Well, I thought Candace said we don't need to make a motion at this point.
Well, this would be a motion to correct the draft, that's all.
Yeah.
Change the draft. You would need a motion, I believe. Yes, because you're changing it.
Exactly.
All those opposed, please say no.
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 So
So Jane and I are opposed.
Was it divided? Wait, was it divided?
It
Yes.
was 3-2.
So under the new changes to the open meeting law, you got to do a roll call.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
It's
Counselor.
unusual we have a divided vote.
First time in a long time.
Okay. Mayor Dillenberg,
No.
Vice Mayor Worth,
Yes.
Ms. Barber,
Yes.
Ms. Harvey,
Yes.
Ms. Worth, I'm sorry. I'm missing-
Yes. What's your name again?
Harvey, Worth,
More.
Moore.
No,
Ms. Moore,
no.
okay.
So it looks like the yeses have it to remove it. And so, so it will not appear in the document that we will review second reading at our next
Correct.
meeting,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you all. Thank you, Bill. Do we need attorney?
I don't think we need him any further.
Well, I've never heard Dr. Mayor before. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I know, pretty crazy. Either have I.
I'm going to make you guys start calling me Colonel.
Colonel, there you go.
All right. Well done. Thank you. Bye.
Stay well.
Thanks,
Get healthy.
Counselor.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
Mayor,
ma'am.
Mayor
All the
Jack,
best. Thank you.
Bye.
Dr. Mayor Jack, can I
Yes.
ask for a 5-minute break at this point in the meeting?
If you make it 6 minutes, I'll vote yes.
That
How
sounds
about-
good. I need a break at this point.
Me too. So welcome to my world. We're going to take a 5-minute break. It's 8:58 now. Let's get back here in 5 minutes if we can. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I'm just curious if our other applicant is going to be here for planning and zoning tonight, and if that might be him.
Right. And maybe he's having a hard time, or she, whoever that is, unmuting because shows up as muted.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Okay, are we
Oh,
ready?
now there,
Candace?
yes.
Hey, it's Terry Klein. I'm so sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
Okay.
Terry.
Who is it?
It's Terry Klein,
Oh, okay, thank you.
and I'm just going to change.
So, okay. Are we ready to reconvene?
Yeah, please.
9:07? Okay, moving right along to item 10, 10A, blanket extension of permits. Item 10A, blanket extension of permits. That's some direction on that, Candace?
I'll turn that over to John.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. We did this once before, 6 months ago,
Yep.
just at the start of the whole COVID thing. And it turns out we've had quite a few extensions requests. There's probably 5 or 6 planning related permits that are affected, another half a dozen or so building permits that are affected, and a lot of folks still are not ready to move forward with their permits. They can go forward with individual extensions if they like. If the council does not approve this, that's their only option, is go forward with an individual extension. They have to go back before the board that's originally approved it. But we thought we'd bring this back to the council and see if we can do another 6-month blanket extension.
So when would the expiration be, please?
So
Now it says
basically, May 12th, 2020.
May 12th, okay?
Mhm.
And you have hands up by Jane, Sage, and Mandy.
Thank you. Sage, let's start with you. And
So my question with this is, I guess let me kind of go into it and remind everybody that we have a contract with, I don't want to call it the Cuban Queen, but the Cuban Queen property. And they have, in that contract, they have 3 years to do something about using those parking spaces.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if this extension is going to be affecting them, because it has already affected them for 6 months, if it's going to.
As far as I understand it, the extension would only extend those that are going to expire between now and 6 months from now.
Which does include that particular property. They did include a separate extension should the council not approve the blanket extension. They've already requested extensions, so this would solve that problem. But if not, they're ready to move forward independently.
Who else had a hand up? Was there another hand up? I'm sorry.
Their hand up, and Mandy.
Mandy?
I guess I have a clarification and then a possible consideration. John, my clarification is that in extending permits, we are extending the permit as issued. We're extending the approvals as issued. We're not making any alterations or allowing them to make any alterations, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, and then my toss out there for consideration by council is to adjust from a 6-month extension to a 3. And I just am curious how the rest of council might feel about doing 3-month blanket extension versus a 6-month. Thank you.
Interesting. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. John, do you have any issues with that option?
My only thought on 3 months is I don't think anything different is going to be around the corner in 3 months. If it was clear that COVID was turning the corner and things were changing, I'd say yes. But a lot of folks that are planning to go forward have jobs that are affected. They're in the service industry or have businesses that are affected by COVID and they're financially not able to move forward. So 3 months probably won't make too much difference. At the end of 6 months, I think that would be a pretty good extension because that'll be an entire year. And at that point, I think they need to either decide if they're going to continue independently or if they want to with another extension or if they want to just give up at that point. So, 3 months is better than nothing, but I don't think we're going to be anywhere different in 3 months.
Especially the way the numbers are going right now. They're going up, not going down. I think that'd be my concern.
Right.
That we're not even going to have a vaccine available for people for 6 months easy. So I think it's, even though it's being developed, it's not going to be distributed till the middle of next year. So
Can I get a little clarification on the date, you guys? Sorry to butt in.
May.
Well, we talked about it being 6 months and it being May 12th, 2020. We're in November of 2020 right now. So May 12th would have to be 2021.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for catching that typo.
And then Jane did have her hand up, I think, and she apparently got skipped.
I can't see Jane here. I'm sorry. Jane, please.
I was just gonna make a motion to do the 6-month extension.
We have the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Thank you, Jane. Any other further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We got 6-month extension on that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Now we have item 10B, discussion of draft ordinance to amend the Jerome Town Code regarding the keeping of bees within town limits. Yeah. And boy, I tell you, I was having lunch at the barbecue at Bobby D's, and I was just spent most of my time just swapping away bees. So I saw the draft ordinance, and I think at this point, Andrea has sent from the surgeon's house sent her comments and willingness to help with things. I think that was distributed. Candace, at this point, what should be our discussion on this thing?
Well, this is just a draft ordinance. It's for discussion only to decide if this is the route you want to take. We do have some time because although you might not know it from last week too, the cold weather is setting in and the bees hopefully will go to sleep soon. But at any rate, I worked with the mayor on this. She gave me some sample ordinances from Queen Creek, Sedona, and Winslow that she had marked up with the items that she wanted to include. So I composed this draft on that basis. When I did, I noticed that in Sedona's ordinance, and I put it in this one too, it said that it required notification to property owners within 100 feet before issuing a license, but it said nothing about what would happen if somebody objected. So in Sedona, they have beekeeping as an accessory use in their zoning ordinance. So my thought to you, if you're interested in going that way, is to also, in addition to whatever you put in the town code, put something in the zoning ordinance to make it beekeeping a conditional use in whatever zones you determine that it should be in. And obviously the you have two other options besides this ordinance. One is to leave things exactly as they are, not make any changes, and the other is to prohibit them altogether, beekeeping, as we had done many years ago. So Jane has her hand up.
Yes, Jane, please.
She does
A
too.
couple of things. Bees have been coming into people's shops and businesses for years, long before there were beehives in town. I know because they have regularly come into the pottery shop. I don't know whether it's because we have water from the clay making or whatever, and committed suicide in the shop. I mean, we get hundreds of bees that fly in when we have the doors open, and this has been going on for years. So I'm not sure whether it's the beehives that we have the bees or why we have the bees. And the other thing, I was wondering, if we did this ordinance, would this be retroactive for someone who has beehives? Or is that a Prop 207, the previous Prop 207 issue? I don't know.
I'm just gonna
Questions?
wager a guess, and I'll check with the attorney about it, but because it's not part of the zoning ordinance, it's just the town code amendment. I think that whoever's not complying would probably have a certain amount of time in which to come into compliance.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Sage has her.
Sage?
Yep. So my initial comment on this after reading this, and I don't know if y'all got the chance to read all of the information that I sent.
There's a lot.
Personally, I think that our wild bees are getting forced out. The information, the studies that I sent out states that wild bees will consume up to 95% of their food that is available to them in their area. So when you bring in hives from somewhere else, especially in a drought time, or if there's not enough food for them in their area, they will go out and look for more food. I have lived in the same house for almost 4 years, and for the first 2 years, I didn't really have any problems with the bees. Last year, they got pretty bad on my porch, and this year I cannot even walk out my front porch. And even today, when it was 60 degrees after all the snow and the cold, I am looking out my window, and instead of hummingbirds on my hummingbird feeder, I have nothing but bees still. So my comment on this is, I think that this is a really nice ordinance, but I personally don't feel that hives should be kept in the C1 zone or the residential zone in Jerome. We are such a small area. Bees can travel up to 5 miles if they have to. Yeah. Bees do not prefer to go any further than they have to from their home range to eat. So I'm feeling like this neighborhood where I live didn't have a bee problem when I moved into it, and it does now. And I'm aware that there's possibly not just the hives up at Andrea's, but possibly one on the end of Verde as well. And my guess would be at this point that that's where my bees are coming from, because I can watch them take off of my hummingbird feeder and go down Verde.
Wow.
Just in my opinion, I just don't think that hives really belong in Jerome. We have our own natural hives and bees, and we've always had excessive bees in Jerome, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse now that there are hives allowed. If nobody else feels that way, we can definitely go through all the notes I have on here too.
Mandy has her hand up also, Mayor.
Thanks, Sage. Mandy, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to note a couple of things. One, Sage, you do killer research. Thank you, darling. I appreciate that.
Great. No, that was.
I have not had enough time to consider all of that stuff. I've read through it, but I really would like to go back to it again before having any sort of solid feel. But
Oh, such great information. Thank you. Secondarily, as Sage shared about going out on your porch even when it's freezing cold, I've recently had people come back about 10 days ago, and even they noted the difference just in the last 5 months from the last time they were here, what the bees were like going outside. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that it's the issue seems to have increased considerably. Now, they weren't here at the height of the summer when it was really bad, but between May and now, they've noticed a difference. And I wanted to put that out there. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mandy. I'm getting the sense that we want to continue this discussion and push this off till December till we get a little more review and see how it goes. If they go away, you know, between now and our next meeting because of the winter, then we've got some time to really think about what's a meaningful type of ordinance, if any, or any regulation that makes sense. That's not overreacting. I know this has been an extraordinary climate with the dryness and no monsoon, and I know they're struggling, but I'm thinking that maybe we just table this till next month, and in the meantime, see how this emerges. Any comments from people? Sage, I see the thumbs up from you. Thank you.
I will second your motion, Jack, to table it and talk about it again in December.
Yes, you make a motion on that?
I'll make the motion to table until December.
That sounds great. And Sage, will you second that? Good.
I will.
Oh, thank you. And Jane, you got your hand up?
No.
Okay, you're just waving at me. Okay. So we got a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, so we'll discuss it at our next meeting, and let's see, we'll see how it unfolds. You know, bees are good critters. We just want to make sure we're doing the right thing for everybody. Thank you very much. That's great. Okay, now, all right, moving right along. Item 10C, COVID-19. I think this one is an easy one for us, that we just stay the way we are right now with the town hall and everything. That's my perspective. I think things are getting worse, not better. I really appreciate the safety that we're demonstrating and practicing what we're preaching. So my recommendation is that we just continue what we're doing. If you need a motion for that, Candace, we do.
I'll make the motion, Jack, unless you want to make the motion, and I'll second your motion.
No, that's great. Alex has made the
I'll
motion.
make the motion, keep doing what we're doing as far as COVID. Our numbers are really spiking.
Yep.
If anyone has noticed on the Yavapai County Health website,
Yep.
we now have our own line item that says Jerome, when before we didn't have enough for that. So everyone in Jerome, be careful.
Be careful. Thank you, Alex. We have to take care. We have to really follow the safety procedures. Yes, Sage, do we need
I will second her motion.
Thank you. There you go. Surprise, surprise. There you go. I love it. Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Unanimous. We'll continue our COVID-19 safety precautions. We're keeping the town hall closed and doing these meetings by Zoom. Moving along to new business. Item 11A, parking permit requirements.
Can I just clarify for the public's sake that town hall is not, it's not closed. The doors
No.
are locked, but we are available by phone, by appointment.
Yeah.
We still are providing the services, so.
Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
And I appreciate that we are taking care of our employees. Parking permit requirements. Where are we on this? This one's a little
This would
touchy. I
be
know.
John, and Sage has her hand up.
Yeah. Okay, Sage.
Okay, guys, hold on, because I got a lot to say about this one.
Let me get my pillow.
Sorry. Quick point of order, Dr. Mayor. Would you like me to go first, or would you like to hear the council comments first? It's up to you.
Sage, are you okay yielding the floor to John to give his comments?
Yes.
And then I'll happily turn it
Thank
over
you,
for
Sage.
comments and questions. John Knight, zoning administrator, just wanted to give a quick little bit of background. I'm working with the police department, Janice Pontius primarily over at the police department, and they're going through She's going through the process of doing audit of parking permits, and we meet on a regular basis and review some of the tricky permits. And we got one recently that I thought would be a really great case to take a look at, and that is on School Street. And we did get some information, 537 School Street. We did get some information from the residents in those houses about that, and I've included that in your packet. They are concerned about the safety of parking in that potential off-street parking space that they have. And in the ordinance, last time the ordinance was amended, we added a provision that if you do have off-street parking, you may be ineligible for a residential parking permit unless the off-street parking is determined to be substandard in size, character, or unsafe in some manner. And this will be determined by the zoning administrator on a case-by-case basis. So this is really the first time I've had to go through a few of these and make that determination. And I thought it would be a good idea to share some of these with the council. The one on 537 School Street is the only immediate one that we have in front of us. And looking at the site, I'm actually inclined to approve that. I think there are some safety concerns that were raised by the applicant that should be considered. And that would be a very difficult parking space, but I want to run this by the council. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to get down there and take a look at it. And I went through and took some pictures of some other ones that I thought might be good sort of case examples if they did come in for a parking permit. I don't have any permits for most of these. They either already have a permit or they haven't had any requests. If they did come in with a parking permit, how are we going to look at some of these? Some of them that I'm not sure about are some of these old garages. Should these folks be required to update, improve, change their garages and park in those? Many of them are old sheds. We did have one on, I believe it was Center Street, where she actually did take one of her sheds and upgrade it, one of the sheds and upgrade it and turn it into a parking space. That's number 10 on my pictures. But quite a few of them would be a major obstacle to upgrade them, to turn them into parking spaces. So I just wanted to throw some of those examples in your pictures. Be happy to answer any specific questions. We do have a couple on Clark Street that would be extremely dangerous. I think we'd all agree that backing out onto State Highway at night or any other time is going to be very difficult. So thank you. Be happy to answer any questions.
John. Sage, thank you, Sage, for waiting. Please.
Yep, not a problem. So first off, I want to state that as a child, I had seen 3 vehicles parked on a regular basis in this property. I don't think it's any more unsafe for someone to be trying to pull out of that spot than it is for me to pull out of Verde. I have so much that I think is wrong with the pictures that we were sent. They're deceptive in making it look like there's not enough room. There's trash cans that need moved, flower pots that need moved. There's plenty of room once her truck is in there for her truck to be there. Jerome is a difficult place for parking. We will always have parking problems. We do not have parking issues. We have parking problems. And Candace reminded me of that today. It's not an issue. It is a problem. You move to a town that has parking problems, you need to consider where you are going to be parking and what the situation is with the vehicle that you drive. I personally had an oversized vehicle in this town, for this town. It was a lifted Z71 extended cab truck. It doesn't work in Jerome. I now own a small S10 pickup in its place. My understanding is that this particular property was turned into a duplex with the condition that it has 3 parking spaces. Even, I'm pretty sure the mayor or the prior mayor can express that a little bit further. And then just to look through some of these places, there's a handful of these places that have never, ever in my life been parkable, John, just so you know, never in my life been parkable. I kind of like the fact that you put Alex May's old parking spot on there, because it's just one of those that shows that, yes, it is very difficult to park in Jerome. So I think what I want to kind of go back to is there was a suggestion because I have been talking to Janice as well about the parking lately, because imagine that I always get involved in the parking for some reason up here.
I wonder why.
And she had a really good suggestion, and I really think that this might help if we can get some of the landlords to pay attention to this. Landlords that own property in the town of Jerome, that rent a home to people who maybe have been to Jerome a handful of times and think that they know what Jerome is all about, and they want to move to Jerome and they think it's great and awesome, and then they get here and they go, oh my God, I don't have any place to park. So Janice's suggestion was that maybe we do a letter to our current landlords. I mean, I think we know where most of our rentals are through our utilities, and strongly suggest to them that they start putting into their lease what our ordinances are and telling their tenants before they sign their lease what their parking situation is. Do they have off-street parking? How many parking spaces do they have? And if they don't, what the process is for them to go and get a parking permit. So I will leave off on that.
Thank you, Sage.
And Jack, if I can segue a little
Yes,
off
of
what
course.
Sage was talking about, I can elaborate a little.
Thank you.
The lady that owns the house, her and her husband used to live there. Her husband was on our council. He passed away while he was on our council. After he had passed away, she decided that she wanted to turn this into a duplex. And she brought it in front of the council. And when she brought this in front of the council as a duplex, she assured everyone on the council that there was 3 off-site parking spots. The contingency of this turning into a duplex was that they were going to park in these spots. So she even had a schematic of how big the spots were. From the picture I'm looking at, there's quite a bit of trash, quite a bit of pots that could be moved out of the way. And I'm not trying to be mean to the person that lives here now. I am just saying that if the council that told Denny Finney that she could make this a duplex would have known what was happening with this parking, we probably wouldn't have okayed the duplex.
Gotcha. No, I hear you. I hear you. Thank you, Alex. Spot on. Candace, I mean, at this stage, I don't know what action.
It's direction here on the agenda.
Yeah.
And it's direction for the zoning administrator regarding that space in particular, whether you feel it's worthy of a permit and in general, I think that's what he's looking for, is direction on what constitutes an unsafe off-street parking space. Is that right, John?
I'm on mute, not anymore. Absolutely. I'm just looking for some general direction. It's nice to write an ordinance, but in Jerome especially, there's a lot of gray area. So just trying to get some direction from the council. And that's why I went around and took some of these other pictures as well. So you could see it's not always a simple, clean, easy.
No, I agree.
easy
And I
space.
just.
And
We've got hands up from
Jane's got her hand up.
Sage, Jane, and Mandy all have hands up.
And also, I just want to mention as well that I believe the person who submitted the application for the permit is interested in speaking as well tonight.
Oh, are they here?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Let me
Jennifer
get
Coleman.
Let me get Jane, and then if they want to speak, they may. Let me
Lacey
get
also has her hand up.
who is Sage? Yes, let me get Jane, Sage, and then we'll get the public member if they want to comment. Jane, please.
I'd just like to say, I agree. Cars have parked in this and have used this parking. And when you say you have parking and then you can't use it, that just doesn't work.
I hear you.
I mean, at least 2 cars can park in there, maybe not a large truck, but they have parking and it should be used, it seems like to me, because we have parking problems, like everybody said. And that's my feeling about it.
Thank you, Jane. Sage, did you have any follow-up? And then we'll go to the gentleman that John is recommending. Yes, Jane,
Don't forget Mandy too.
I'm good.
Mandy,
Good.
hand up.
Mandy, sorry, Mandy. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. A little aside, I just want to note that picture number 6 is the goal to keep everything off public property in the midst of the reconstruction. But will be, it is and has been a parking space in the past. I've said this in previous meetings about this process, and I'm just gonna reiterate it, that every property is different. Every parking space is different. Every street is different in Jerome. And I think that what we really need to have a comprehensive list where each parcel, each residence has been determined what is and is not okay. Because I agree with Sage's comment about providing the information and suggesting that landlords include that as part of their lease. But if we don't have something that is consistent and comprehensive in file with the town, then that's going to be a difficult thing for a landlord to do in general. But I love that idea. And that was, or if somebody purchases a property or is an escrow on a property, we can say, here's how the town rates your parking, essentially.
Yeah.
But we need to make a comprehensive overview, and I know that's time consuming, and I know that's going to require site visits to every single parcel. But it is something that we need to do. And even if we just take, a handful a month, we say, okay, we're going to get through 10 a month, which might take a couple hours twice. And we do them all, okay, I'm going to do these 5 houses here. I'm going to do these 5 houses here next week. At least we are moving forward with that process of cataloging. And that's, I think we need to have something that is consistent, factual based, filed with the town, so each property is aware. And then if the parcel owner wants to argue what the town has determined, they can do that on an individual basis. Thank you.
Thanks, Manny. Sage, did you have a response or follow-up?
Yeah, I would just say that if we want to initiate something like that so that we can get a good comprehensive list of who gets permits and who doesn't, and a couple of us need to walk around and start deciding that, I would be more than happy to volunteer some of my time to help either PD or zoning or whoever ends up having to deal with it.
I'm right there with you, Sage. I go for walks on a regular basis. So just send me in a different direction a couple times a month and I'll scan a couple of houses.
Thank you.
And Mayor, can I have a couple words too before we go to the public?
Yes.
You were saying that John wanted direction, or someone said John wanted direction. At this point, until we get to the point where Mandy was talking about, I think it just needs to be looked at on a case-by-case basis, because again, everything is unique, everything is different. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you. That's worth a nickel. It's good. Good. Anyway, John, is someone here that you wanted, that was going to want to speak on this?
Yes, I believe Lacey is interested in speaking, as well as Jennifer Coleman. They live in the house on School Street that is the prime example we're talking about.
Candace?
Yes.
Is that appropriate?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to speak? I don't see any.
Lacey.
Lacey, please.
You're muted.
Lacey, can you unmute?
Okay, so yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, not the greatest connection, but do the best you can.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Lacey, your sound is garbled. If you could turn your video off, it might help. Okay, try
I
that.
just wanted to clarify.
No, it's not working. Where you're
Lacey, if you wouldn't mind, if you could call in.
Better?
If you could call in on the phone number, we can barely hear.
Is it better?
No.
Really?
Maybe we can, Dr. Mayor, maybe we can switch to Miss Coleman, and then in the meantime, Miss Ritter can give us a call on her telephone.
fine. Lacey, call in, please. We do want to hear what you want to say. So
The phone number is on the agenda.
Thank you. So who's the other person, please, John?
Miss Coleman?
Is she available, Candace?
Yes.
I am. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Hi.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Mayor and council for allowing me to speak. I definitely understand the concerns. I will tell you that I was very excited to move to Jerome recently. I've been heavily visiting for 3+ years. And so this was a very exciting time for me. I am on the city council in Mesa and participatory in that venue. And so I'm very excited to get to participate here as well. I understand the complications with the parking in Jerome and definitely understand the need for a disclosure in the lease. What I will say and what I would like to convey is some of the complications that I encountered during my move here. So I was required to sign a lease before applying for a permit. That lease did not include anything about parking, and had it disclosed the appropriate parking issues, I don't know that I would have signed. I think I would have checked a different rental history or a different rental property. So that was a little bit frustrating on my side, but I will tell you that in approaching the police department, I was asked about my romantic relationships. I was asked about my type of vehicles. And I did feel very, very subjected. And I just kind of went, you know, it's a small town, it's okay. People are gonna be in my business, I'm gonna invite them in, and I will make friends with people over the course of time. Recently, I did have to get a rental car. I had reached my maximum on my warranty. And so I was like, you know, I'm not gonna put myself at risk there. So I used the rental car to actually test pulling in the driveway so that I didn't put my own vehicle at risk. I will tell you that the rental car did scrape the bottom. I do know that we've put pots there in an effort to suggest to other people parking on the street not to park in front of the driveway. We often have people encroaching in that area. And because we have the plaque on the house, we find it difficult to back up. What I will say is that because of this rental car, it did have an extremely wide rear view backup camera. And at one point I did attempt to back up. And there were parents who were reading the plaque and not monitoring their children, and their 4-year-old children very quickly popped in back of my car. And so that was something that I did reach out to my car insurance company and ask, you know, is this something that I would be responsible for safety wise, or is this something the town or the property owner? I have rental history. How would this, a rental insurance, how would this balance, and where would I apply for this? And there was a lot of unknowns. So my car insurance company also asked for documentation of the driveway. In addition to that, I think that if you did park 3 cars in that driveway, that you start to prevent fire, ambulance companies, anything like that, being able to get up to the rear residence of the back of the house. And so you occur additional safety hazards. I think I listed out, there was an outline that I included to John, additional safety concerns. You guys have bylaws in your Jerome piece where you guys talk about the livelihood of residents. And I can tell you, if the cars are parked in that driveway for any period of time, that the smoke from the, not the smoke, but the exhaust from the cars do come in my windows and fill the suite as well. And that's not your town, now the problem of a town. That would be the problem of making sure the windows are enclosed and that sort of thing. But I do think it's important to take into the fact that this town is old, the home is old. There are pieces that we're working with the landlord to correct. And in the meantime, I would like to be able to park at my home. The piece that's most concerning to me is that the resident who lived here less than 2 months ago had a parking permit for the street, and I'm not being given the same honor while this is determined. I'm living with temporary parking permits. I'm living with, you know, having to change those pieces out. And I will say that the police officer, Chuck, is absolutely amazing. He's so respectful and so kind and very flexible with us. Yeah. But the final point that I would like to make is that there is typically 8 to 9 spaces open and vacant on the street itself. We're not asking to even park directly in front of the front of the home. We're asking to park along the side. And so there are cars that are left standing that aren't checked. They're clearly housing storage. They're clearly housing disabled vehicles. And I'm just asking for one vehicle for one residence. While we were moving in, we had 2 vehicles at times, and Chuck was very kind to allow us temporary parking for that. But now we're alternating vehicles most cases. And in that case, my car cannot make it into the driveway. Noah's truck is larger. And yes, all of those things should be considered when you're moving to a property, but that is not listed in the lease or in the town. You don't know that when you're coming to a place. And so I'm wanting to bring my talents and my personality to this town, my youth to this town, and bring, you know, engagement and participation. But I just get a little frustrated with the fact that I just even can't park within, you know, this distance of the house. The driveway is absolutely, you know, there, but it was designed for a carriage and not a car that is beyond, you know, my Elantra GT. So if I would invite anybody on the council to come, feel free to try our parking space. I will gladly host your car. But it is a frustrating experience moving to town, and I would ask the council to consider a permit while we discuss the safety of the driveway and get that onto the council meeting minutes.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it, and it certainly can understand the frustration and the need. So
Absolutely.
thank you. I
And
appreciate
I would
that
like
very-
to thank my neighbors. I see Carol on here as well. I know that we had, rough starts over parking. I've now realized some of the issues around guest parking and how people can retaliate. And so I again thank her graciousness and patience with us as we've, grown accustomed to the town and to its parking regulations. But I do feel like there's enough vacant parking on our street that it would be acceptable to issue one parking permit per residence, and it being the duplex.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. And is Lacey back on phone?
And Sage also has her hand up, just so you know.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sage, I didn't see you. I apologize. Sage, did you have a question or comment?
I did have a comment and it left my mind. I'll raise my hand if it comes back.
Thank you. Lacey back? No Lacey.
She's there, she's unmuting.
Oh, I'm muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's
Yes.
Okay. So Jen actually cleared up a lot. I think a lot of what she said, and but there was a couple things that got brought up that I just kind of wanted to clear. I tried to make the photos that were sent, to give a clear understanding, but there is some confusion, I guess. So the photos with the trash can doesn't stay there. That was just to indicate when I was taking that photo, the trash can is basically kept behind where I was standing to take that photo. I was just showing that there's basically no room to take the trash can down to the sidewalk. And just kind of giving that frame of space. The pots on that wall, they certainly can be moved. They're not in the way of the door of my truck to necessarily open. But again, I was just trying to show that for me to get in and out of that vehicle, I have to climb up on that curb, that wall space. It's just very cumbersome. I need a lot of equipment for my job. I do agriculture work, so I'm bringing a lunchbox, my tools for work, extra layers at this point, just all those things. So to get that stuff in and out on either side of the vehicle is difficult. And with School Street specifically is kind of a whole nother issue. I feel like the thought about School Street parking is a little backwards, because there is still excess parking availability on School Street. Overall, from Sunday to Saturday, there's room for parking on School Street. It gets crowded on the weekends when people who are visiting town try to park on our street, or there's a couple residences that from time to time they're having construction done. So construction workers are coming, they take up a few spaces and it can get full. They leave, at some point or whatever. So it empties back out again. But from what I understood with a few conversations that I've had with Janice, is that it's already been determined that no more parking permits can be issued for School Street. And if that's the case, and also visitors can't park there, then there's room that's not being utilized of what could be utilized for, well, one, the people that are living right on the street. It's not hurting anybody else's parking abilities. And like Jen had said, I'm not even above having to park further down the street. It's just being able to have that accessibility because the space is there.
Thank you.
And I just want to make one other point, is that it sounds like that there's some people that are making assumptions about what they think the space of this driveway is. And, not to sound snarky, but I invite you to bring your vehicle down, pull into the driveway and back out without assistance and see how well you do. It's a very blind, narrow street. It's very, very difficult. And if you have people trying to drive down, or people that are walking down the sidewalk, especially because I have a pickup truck, I'm already halfway backed out of the space before I have any visibility. And it's a safety issue.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Lacey. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Sage has her
Thank
hand
you.
up.
And Sage has her hand up. I see it. Go ahead, Sage.
Thank you. Dr. Mayor is your new name from what I gather.
Yeah, God.
So I have a couple comments. First off, my understanding from talking to both Janice and John is that School Street is full. So it may look like there's some available parking spaces there because maybe some of the people that actually have a permit for their parking space are out of town right now. So if a permit was issued when we're full on School Street, someone would come home to not having a parking space when they have a parking permit already. Also, I want to remind everybody that School Street is permitted for both people that have houses with front facing, what do we call that, when the front is facing the street, is on School. But we also have some of the buildings that face 89A, that is their parking. And so it's not just the people on School Street. And then the snarky comment I want to actually kind of retaliate against. I have physically seen 3 cars parked in there. Now, mind you, it was tandem. One of them was tucked in the little back space where behind the tree, and it was one that sat there for many, many years. But on a regular basis as a child, there were 2 cars parked in there. I believe they were Volkswagen Bugs. And also, the other thing is that I have physically walked up there to look at that parking area again to make sure that my young mind wasn't remembering something that is different than what my old mind sees. Because sometimes when we're small children, things look a whole lot bigger to us than they do when we're adults. And that is not the case here. And I would be glad to bring either one of my vehicles up and park in that space, because I would be absolutely thrilled to have my own private parking space in Jerome. I myself have to rotate cars because I have 2 vehicles and Verde is full. I have a hang tag and I am permitted to have 2, but there's not enough room on Verde to have 2. And I don't get to park right next to my house. I am lucky I do get to park across the street. It's uncomfortable when cars come by to get things out of my car. Sometimes I have trouble opening my door to get out because there's a railing on the side that I park. Jerome has parking problems, and to come here and to insist that you deserve a parking space because you have a large vehicle that you can't get in the parking space that you clearly saw before you rented the place is, in my opinion, not our problem. I don't think that this place qualifies to have parking permits. I did not think that it qualified to have parking permits for the last 2 residents that rented there. It has off-street parking. It is why it was allowed to be a duplex. I would absolutely love to have a private parking space.
Thank you.
Mayor
Thanks.
Jennifer and also Carol Whitner have their hands up.
Okay. Jennifer, I can see you. I can't see Carol. But Jennifer, if you unmute, if you have a comment.
I completely hear you, Sage, and thank you for your thoughts on that. My car is actually very small. I own an Elantra GT, and the bottom of my car scrapes up against the bottom, and I'm totally willing to buy a new car so that it fits in said driveway. My biggest fear is when I pulled out and almost hit the 4-year-old child whose parent wasn't watching them. Totally get it. That piece is not acceptable. That it is a clear safety issue that I can't back out 2/3 of my car without seeing the people who might be reading the plaque. So then my next issue would be, how do we take the plaque down? Because while this house has historical value and I want the city to be able to maintain that, I wouldn't be willing to put children at risk. And if you saw the amount of population that stops to read that plaque, I think you would hold the same concern. So that would just be my invitation, is just to come take a look. And I totally can appreciate your experience and I can see you're talking. So I'll gladly yield the floor again, but I would very happily, invite a conversation over that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that. And who was that person?
Carol Whitner
Carol Whitner.
and John also.
Okay, let's get Carol. She had her hand up and then we'll go to John.
Okay.
Carol?
So I live on School Street. I'm right next door to this house. And there is a problem with parking on School Street. Right now, it's not bad for sure because there's fewer people around. But there are many times I park in front of my own garage because that is the only space. And I do have a parking permit. There have been times I came home when I couldn't even park in front of my garage. And I don't want to say anything about Lacey and Jennifer, but on the weekends, they have 5 cars there, not 3, but 5, because their boyfriends come. And so besides the 3 cars that they have, they add 2 more on the weekends. And it does create a problem. When Marla lived in that apartment that Jennifer is in, she covered that plaque on the house with paper because people were reading it. So if that's a problem, backing out of that space, covering the plaque right now might be a good option. I don't know, but when everybody is there on School Street, parking is a real problem. There was one time that I came home, I couldn't park anywhere. And I wound up going uptown and parking behind my building, on, I don't even know the street, behind my building up on Main Street, because I couldn't park in front of my own house. All the spaces were full. And that is a real problem. Right now, it's quiet. There's very few people around and there are spaces available, but that is not true most of the time. Most of the time, the street is just jammed. So that's what I want to add to it.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. John, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Just a couple comments. I believe based on the latest permit tracker that Janice Punches put together, she tracks as many as 7 spaces might be available still for parking on School Street. And they're not in the congested area, but around the corner Also, we're doing the parking audit where we're going through individually, and we're trying to finish this before the end of the year, individually looking at people who may have been issued permits that probably shouldn't have permits. There's at least 2 trucks that are down at the end of School Street, below the big wall that holds up Town Hall. And they haven't moved. I don't remember them moving since I've been there. So, you know, they may lose 1 or 2 of those permits for those existing cars. So there could be potentially as many as 9 spaces available if the permit tracker is accurate.
Thank you.
Lacey has her hand up.
Okay, because I want to move on and get some opinion here. I'll have Lacey speak, but I'd like to get a sense before we give so we can give some direction to the staff about what qualifies as on and off street parking as part of this. So anyway, Lacey, please.
Okay, so I just wanted to add that our visitors should not be, I don't know, like we should be penalized because we have people visiting, whether it's a friend or whoever. There's visitor passes for that. And neighbors constantly are having construction workers who park in front of the house and take up space when there's available parking further down the street. They don't need to park in front of everybody's houses and taking up their parking spaces either. There's actually, on top of the 2 vehicles that I think it was John that just mentioned, there are 2 other vehicles up at the front or the beginning of School Street that also never move. There's 1 vehicle that's got weeds and spider webs growing all over the tires. So if you also want to take a look at that, because I think there's an ordinance of the vehicle needs to be moved every so many days, and it obviously is not, and it's being treated like a storage space. That could be looked at as well. And, you know, granted, I have a larger vehicle, but I guarantee that if Jen and I both parked a smaller vehicle in the driveway, it would still be blocking the sidewalk. So then would I be, or one of us be penalized because we're blocking sidewalk space now? And that, you know, it's just a constant issue and a problem and a safety issue. So I'll yield.
Well, thank you so very much. Any council member have a recommendation or direction they would like to see occur relative to this?
You have somebody, it just says iPhone, but the hand is up. I'm not sure who it is.
Okay. Who's on the iPhone, please?
You'll need to unmute yourself on the iPhone.
Please, and then you can speak.
Nothing's happening. Let's see. There, okay. iPhone?
Person on the iPhone, would you like to comment or speak? You had a hand raised.
Nothing.
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, I like to, Candace, what, I know it's a matter of a direction issue for staff, but what is it, would council members want to do at this point? Is there any action they want to take? Is there anything for John that we want to give as far as direction?
If you just give him a sense of where you're all at about this, you know, that's what he needs to hear.
Dr. Mayor?
Yes, Mandy.
I just, you know, what I said before about cataloging, I think every unit is different. I think every residence is different. And if they want an official opinion on it, then we need to go and do a site visit. I might also encourage residents who are voluntarily saying, look, I know I have off-street parking. I'm not going to do a permit. And they can just submit an email to John and say, you know, at this address, we don't need street parking because we have sufficient off-street parking. That might alleviate some of the walking around, but you know, I'm more than happy. Obviously, Sage is more than happy to start doing some of the cataloging and investigating. It just needs to be consistent, and it needs to be on record at town hall so that it's really clear if somebody calls and says, hey, I'm looking at buying this parcel number, you know, or if we see that they've purchased it, we can say, here's what we have as our designation for your parking availability.
Thank you.
It's a big job, but that's it.
It is.
I mean, we have to do
John,
something.
would I like to maybe suggest, you know, taking advantage of what Sage and Mandy have said, that maybe the three of you sit down and have a discussion on this and see how you may want to recommend we go forward in fairness to the people that live there and trying to meet the needs as best we can. So I'd like to suggest that Sage, Mandy, and John sit down and have a discussion on this and see if maybe doing the individual visit site, what have you, but coming up with at least an initial plan, how we can address this in the short term. Is that okay?
That sounds.
Yep. Sound good to you, John?
Sounds good to me. I'll coordinate that with
Sage
the
and
two
Mandy.
council members.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Great.
I appreciate it.
Great.
Lacey, thank you. Jen, thank you. Carol, thank you. We'll see if we can come up with something that will help meet the need and solve this. Thank you very much. Moving then to district signs. Item 11B, please. This discussion could take 4 days. On this one.
I could shorten it.
Yes, okay, yay, I knew I liked you. Okay.
Before,
wait, John had a comment. Did you have a comment?
Sorry, just a quick point of order. Before we get into the council member comments, I was hoping to give you just a little bit of background.
Yep.
Please.
So John Knight, zoning administrator. So I was contacted, it's been actually over a month now since we had a more detailed discussion, but I was contacted by Kevin Savage, who's the chamber president currently. And they had always committed to finishing up two things with the district signs. One was a metal header over the sign. And then the other was actually having a map that would be keyed in by business number that you would pull and walk around, and you'd have where all the information where all the signs were. However, after examining the signs recently, I think it's worth bringing this up to the council to consider, do we want to do something different with the signs? I don't honestly think, as a planner, just kept looking at it from planning perspective, I think we have a lot of signs, a lot of clutter, a lot of skeletons, a lot of things going on in town. Do we really need these district signs? Are they adding a lot of value? But on the other hand, the businesses were told that they were allowed to have signs. So if the signs are removed, keep in mind that we may need to, in some fashion, reimburse the people who spent money to put the signs up. So I just thought this deserved a little discussion before we try to fix them, change them, leave them, do something with them. So thank you very much.
They definitely look like they need some work, and I certainly don't want to take away from the businesses. But yeah, Sage, please.
Okay, my opinion on this one is this initiated, I believe, kind of from Kyle. It was before Kyle, but Kyle picked it up. And it was kind of smashed together with the Chamber of Commerce map. It wasn't something that the chamber started. The chamber agreed to work with us on it. To be honest with you, the majority of the tourists walking around this town do not have that chamber map in their hand to match the numbers that are on those signs. So people are still walking around aimlessly, just going from shop to shop. Those signs are not really doing any good. We have signs that are there for businesses that don't exist anymore. We have signs that are on the wrong street level for businesses. They're, if nothing's been changed. We have signs that look like absolute crap, excuse my language. And not just from the weather. But personally, I think that this, at this point, it was something that we tried. I believe the people that have a sign paid $10 for a sign, so it wouldn't be a whole lot to give them their sign or pay them their $10 back. I think that it's just more clutter and it's not useful, and I think that we should probably just get rid of it.
They don't look very Jerome-ish to me either.
They do not.
They do not. I agree with you, Sage. I think taking them down may not be a bad idea, and reevaluating and see if there's another opportunity or option for the businesses if they want to have something like a sign. But these don't do anything, and the way they're located, it really doesn't help visitors finding places, I don't think. Any other thoughts from council members, please? No?
Jack,
So- Yes, Alex.
I don't have a problem with repurposing them to turn them into maybe something more for our parking since they're down there, or taking them away completely. Me and Sage had talked about this a little bit to Candace, and I had brought up that Al Sangstock started it. And then Kyle Dabney got a group of students to come in and do some kind of study on it. So we do thank the former zoning administrators for all the work, and the students that did all the work on it. And I'm kind of thinking that they've been up longer than a year, so $10 a year. I mean, I don't know if many of the businesses are going to want their $10 back. I think their $10 was used in the 2 years that they sat up there. So I don't have a problem with getting rid of the signs or repurposing them at this point,
Yes.
Jack.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alice. I think, maybe these could be signs used to direct people to parking, direct people in a more meaningful way than what they are now. But I don't think they're doing the purpose that they were originally intended to serve. I really
I
don't.
agree. And John was talking about wayfinding signs. I don't know if we could merge those into some of our wayfinding signs, if that would be too much of a headache or if that would be something worthwhile.
I don't know.
Jane has her hand up.
Jane?
Unmute myself first.
There you go.
Kevin had something in here about did everybody read Kevin's letter or not?
The email.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It sounded like maybe what he was suggesting was kind of a map, maybe maps in different areas that had a Jerome logo on it or something like that, so people would see that's small. But if they looked at the map, it might show them where shops are.
Mayor,
I don't-
Kevin is actually here at the meeting if you wanted him to comment.
Kevin is?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that's a good idea, Jan. I think these do not serve at this.
No, I agree.
Function. A map
Take
might
them
be
away.
better. Yeah, but those signs and spaces could be used more productively, whether it be for parking, a direction, whether it be a map to stores, maybe something that looks a little bit more creative and artistic than the way they look now. But
smaller.
Well, something. But just to, we've been doing this for over 3 hours now. So before we get, I don't want to.
Yeah, I didn't mean to
Spend
spend a lot of time talking about it, but I think this is an idea
No, I agree.
we could
And
talk about later.
Kevin, there you go. There you go, Whiskey Man.
Okay. How you guys doing?
We were doing okay till you showed up. I mean, it was great to see you.
Thanks for taking me 3 hours later.
There you go.
So if you read the letter, then I was trying to be detailed enough that, and further discussion, as John and I have talked about, is, some mistakes were made. In looking back on it all now, it should have been done out of metal and not wood.
Right.
And so, moving forward, if somebody wanted to replace their plank or something, they should have to have it done out of metal. But all I was trying to get at was, and what Jane was, I think, getting at, is that I was going to suggest not having this much larger map attached to the sides of each of those, and having like an 8.5 by 11 type size that would just show the general map of the business district, that would show where the fire station is, where all the restrooms are, where the defibrillators are located in town, maybe where the police station is. I don't know if you wanted to let people know where the library or whatever, but like I wrote in the letter, but you know, the chamber, you know, every year goes through, it's a job to go through and redo their map that they hand out in the visitor center, and certain businesses hand them out all year long. Primarily, the Mine Museum does a very good job of handing them out as well. So anyway, I laid it out in my letter, what we were willing to do from the chamber standpoint, you know, to kind of put finality to that, because I don't see that the chamber is in a position, or should be in a position in the future, to be changing a whole nother map. They already change one map every year. And I think that a little bit of direction, like I said in the email, would direct them to either the visitor center or the mine museum, or even the state park or something, you know, to get, you know, the map that the chamber produces. But I'm fine with you guys nixing the whole thing and taking them down. I'm just fine with that. So I'm only here because John asked me to. And if you guys had any questions for me, let me know. Here I am.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it very much. Does anyone, any council members have any questions for Kevin? What do we think about just taking them down for now? And then maybe redoing them in some other fashion that we think might be best, or maybe collaborative, meet with the chamber. I think it would certainly not be a bad idea to talk with some of the chamber folks and maybe do a collaboration.
And Dr. Dillenberg, Dr. Mayor Dillenberg, I think we're just looking for direction tonight. So if we can get some direction, and we'd be happy to meet. I think we should also get in touch with some of the businesses and get some input on that as well before we make a final decision. And maybe we can agendize this for December if you want to have it as an action item.
Any other questions or comments from council members?
I just had one more final thing.
Sure.
I was just going to say that, yeah, you know, they all were charged or whatever, $10 for a piece of board, but many of them spent, you know, I'll say anywhere from $40 to $100 maybe, to have an outside artist make up their plank design and painting and whatever. You know, I don't know what they all spent. I know what we spent as a business. We spent about $70 for ours. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, if somebody else wants to volunteer and step up and take that job, they are more than welcome to it. So.
Thank you. Well, we just want you to do the best use for it, Kevin, and see what we can do to help the businesses. And, you know, I think these signs can be improved. And I think it's just a matter of what that looks like. And John, I don't know, in terms of direction for today, you know, I can't think of anything that we can come up with at this point, except taking them down or, you know, redoing them. But I don't know what the redo would look like at this point.
If you'd like, we can bring it back at the next meeting. If you'd like us.
That's a good idea. Let us think about that. And
yeah, and we can meet with, if there are any council members specifically that would like to meet and discuss this, we could meet with some of the business owners.
Jane, maybe as a business owner in town, you may want to, you know, weigh into this. That'd be great to say, what would you like to see there as someone who has a business and would love to see people, your customers, learn from this or get directed from this. So I'd love to have you put your 2 cents in when you think about it a little bit. Yes.
I have some ideas, but I'm not going to bore everybody with them right now.
No, but I'd like you to board John when.
There you go. I'd be happy to meet
Kevin. Okay.
Hear all of your fantastic ideas.
As the business owner representative on the council, that'd be great. I love it. Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
We're going to help make it good.
Yeah, let's move along.
Right along. Thank you. Let's go. We got the ghost pepper lease. I know someone has been on there waiting patiently, I think. Candace, you want to walk us through this a little bit?
Sure, hold on one second, please.
I saw
Yeah,
Bill was on here
Bill
earlier.
Gutierrez is here. He's the owner of the Ghost Pepper, as you probably all know. He's looking to sell his business, and his lease just expired. So right now we're on a month-to-month basis. It expired October 31st, and now it's on until November 30th. I think that's about when he's planning to change hands with his business, and he can tell you more about that. But he's asking for the opportunity for the new owner to enter into a new lease with the town. Typically, when a leaseholder leaves, we advertise the property and, accept bids and select from the different proposals. This is a little different because the same business is going to carry on, as far as I know, and I'm asking Bill to comment on that. It would just be a different owner, and I believe that what Bill indicated to me was that his sale of the business would be contingent upon the new owner being able to lease the space from the town.
Gotcha. Are there any questions or comments from council members? And I see Bill, but that isn't Bill sitting there, that's for sure.
Point of information, Dr. Mayor.
Yes.
Candace, when someone applies to lease a town property, what is our typical process of determining if they're an appropriate leaseholder or not?
We would consider things like the appropriateness for the town, whatever they have in mind, if it reflects the historic nature of the town, if it reflects the creative nature of the town, things like that.
So could we, so I recognize that we're looking at the sale of a business, so it would be the same existing business. So we don't do any sort of like rental history or credit check or any of that kind of stuff.
We haven't in the past, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mandy.
And Sage, I believe, had her hand up.
Sage, I can't see you, but please go ahead.
Mandy asked my question. I was wondering the same thing about asking about credit checks and, can they afford to pay the rent, that kind of thing.
Are we raising the rent?
The rent right now is $1,200 a month. There was an option that was reserved by the council to increase that rent by 10% per year. The council's never exercised that option. I did talk to the attorney about this to make sure that if council wanted to go ahead and just turn the lease over to another person, we could do that. He said yes. He did recommend in that instance we exercise that 10%.
Yeah, I would recommend that because I knew we had an option to go 10%, and I would certainly suggest that. I don't know whether that would, hopefully that wouldn't be a deal breaker for Bill's person, but I would certainly recommend raising the rent 10%. Is Bill on the line with us?
And Alex has her hand up also.
Oh, sorry, Alex, I can't see you.
So my question was, is everything going to be the same as far as the ownership is, like the floor plan? I mean, these are things that we'd like to know. Is it's pretty much going to be a seamless transition of the exact same thing that we've rented to already?
So Bill, if you can unmute and respond, there you go.
Yes, in fact, the potential buyer was on with us until about a half an hour ago. He
Sorry,
has a
Bill.
5 o'clock flight in the morning.
Oh,
sorry.
So I brought that question up to him because I thought you would ask a question like that. And he told me that I could speak for him, saying that he wants to keep the store as it is.
Great.
And then I also want to add in a little bit. I don't think that we should charge the extra 10%. I think we should wait until they've been in there a year. And the reason why I'm against charging an extra 10% is because of COVID. It's just times are tough right now. So I'm ready to make a motion that we seamlessly give this ghost pepper lease to the new tenant at the exact same price.
With an option to raise it 10% in year 2.
Yes, sir.
I would second that.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed? None. Carries. Bill, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Sorry it took so long.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
So let him know he's going to be
I-
stuck for 10% more in year 2.
I will.
Thank you. All the
Thank
very
you.
best. Be safe. Moving right along. Appointment to Planning and Zoning Commission. You know, the irony of 11D is this has been going on for such a long time. And I got to tell you, Sage, I didn't realize this with Mike getting out. I went out and recruited Mike Perry, who lives across the street, who's a builder and so on and so forth, and been on air with the vacancy, and got him to finally agree that he would apply to do this. And then a day later, I see Mike Harvey's application in there too. I had no idea. So we've got 2 folks on this. And John, do you have any comments or anything you want to share about this, please?
No, they both, other than they both are very capable. It's certainly discretion at the council. It is funny that we've been trying to fill the space so long, and then we get two right on top of each other.
You know, and I saw Mike Harvey on here earlier. I don't know. I didn't see Mike Perry today, but is Mike Harvey still on, or?
He is.
He is. I don't know if Mike would like. I want to give him the courtesy of commenting or saying anything if he'd like. While he's here and waiting for his patience. I appreciate that.
Hey, Jack.
Yes.
I would appreciate the opportunity to do what I could for town.
We're getting feedback through.
We're turning the other one down. We're both on Zoom in the house.
Yeah, you must be
So
close to each
it's
other.
feeding
Thank
back
you.
on me, but I've got it done. I have a lot of experience. I have the time. I don't travel. I don't have a business to conflict with it. I don't see any complications. And I'd be willing to take any education they offer.
Thank you. I really appreciate your willingness to step up and do this. And no, that's great. Does any, while we have Mike on the phone, do any council members have any questions?
Jane
I
has
see,
her hand
I
up.
see. Oh, whose hand was that? Was that Jane?
Jane and Mandy.
And Mandy. Okay, let's start with Jane, and then we'll go to Mandy.
I guess the other Mike is not here to answer a question, but I guess I'm assuming how he would answer it, but I wanted to make a motion to appoint Mike Harvey to planning and zoning because I think he'd be good, and I'd like to, we always are saying we need new blood.
Yes.
I
And
will second
Mike
that
Perry
motion.
was gone a lot.
Motion in
Man,
the-
Alex, you jumped ahead of me. I was gonna second that.
Okay, well, that was
Yeah.
Mandy. All right, we got.
I'm just saying why I'm making the motion.
Oh, good. Thank you. Mandy, you still want to comment? Are you okay that we've got this motion in second?
My comment was gonna second Jane's motion.
There you go. I like it.
And then I went on and on.
There you go. But God forbid.
I have a statement, a little bit of why I did that second. Sorry, Mandy, that I jumped ahead of you. The reason why I would like to appoint Michael Harvey and not Mike Perry. Mike Perry stepped down from his appointed position because he didn't have enough time to make meetings. I also do not believe that Mike Perry lives here, is a full resident. I think this is a part-time gig for him. And that is not the reason why I would rather have Mike Harvey. I think that we should give Mike Harvey a chance. And I also don't think that after you are on a board and you step down, that we should give you another chance when we have another viable candidate. Nothing against Mike Perry. Mike, if you're out there listening, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I just think that Mike Harvey deserves a chance at this.
Thank you, Alex. And I'm not hearing any further discussion. I would like to call the question. All those in favor of Mike Harvey being added to the Planning and Zoning Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Unanimous. Mike, thank you so very much. I appreciate your willingness to step up and whatever we can do to help you succeed. And I guess you have some access to the town council.
A little bit. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for stepping up, and it's going to be a pleasure working with you and John, and best wishes for great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
You got it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. And now moving along to the appointment to the PRS board. I guess, Alex, you did this previously at the request of the mayor.
Sage was actually on the board. We had Sage there, and I'm not sure if Sage would like to continue doing it. That's a question to ask her.
Sage, they have one more meeting before the end of the year. Are you okay to attend that? And then we can reevaluate it after that if you'd like.
I would be happy to take this on for another term if you'd like, Jack. That is the only.
I would like, if you were happy with it, comfortable. I know you're a busy young lady, but this would be great.
Well,
Dr.
I wanted
Jack?
to make sure that got
Yes,
addressed because I know that it goes with my term, which ended tonight.
Yes,
So,
got you.
and they generally only have 2 meetings a year, and I actually kind of enjoy meeting with the
Good.
officers, and I have no
Thank you.
problem taking it on for another 2 years.
I hear Mandy has a comment. Yes, Mandy?
Mandy has more than a comment. Mandy immediately put the hand up because I would like to make a motion that we retain Sage as the representative to the PSPRS as the chair there. I think she's doing a great job. She has a good rapport with the rest of the members of that board. And she
love
is
this
super
council.
detailed when it comes to facts
with the
and
numbers,
figures.
I love it. Thank you,
So
Mandy.
I am making a motion.
Is there a second to that motion? I'll second the motion. There you go. It's about time I got off my butt and seconded something. I love it. I love this council. Is there any other further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of what was your name? Sage. Yes, thank you. See, 3.5 hours of the meeting, not that bad. We're going crazy here.
Vice Mayor Barber.
All in favor of Sage
Aye.
continuing in this position, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Unanimous. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Sage, for willing to do it. Appreciate that a lot. To and from the council. Anything else? Yes, Sage. You look familiar.
I'm having the hardest time unmuting myself with that finger.
Oh,
And I was wondering if you were ever going to second anything tonight, Jack. I just
I
have to
did.
say.
I
mean,
did.
we used to go head to head for seconds.
I know. There you go. No.
So just 2 things I want to bring up. One, I want to bring up that we had asked a while back about doing a survey of the Hotel Jerome parking area. My understanding is that all the lead has been abated and that all of the windows are in there now. And we might want to go ahead and do that survey of that parking area back there on Rich Street to make sure that it is all ours. So that when we start trying to move ahead with doing anything else with that, we have parking for that building. The other thing is I wanted to let everybody on council know that even though the chamber has canceled the Light Up the Mountain, the former mayor and I could not let this town go without being lit up for the holidays. So we contacted Kevin and he was gracious enough to not only loan us the decorations, but to come out and help direct us in how to put them up in the park. We are having a little bit of problem with the power in the park. Electrician should be there Thursday to see if he can fix it. But we did get the majority of that done with one change. If you walk down, you will notice there is no hose sign this year. It is a hope sign that I personally purchased all the stuff and made myself and have donated to town.
Great, thank you. Ho, ho, ho is right. Okay, cool. Okay, Alex, do you have anything you'd like to suggest?
I do have something. We probably all remember last year when we all got elected, that there was a newly elected official council person training. Well, that is all online this year. I have registered. It is starting December 1st. Things like Arizona Government 101, social media, open meeting law, public service ethics. Just letting you guys know, there's always new information there to brush up on your skills. So just letting everyone know if you're interested in that. I do not think it's too late to get you on the in the sessions. So, and it is all Zoom this year.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Jane, anything you would like to add?
Yes, sorry.
Don't be sorry. I told
just
you.
wanted to mention that last week, after we did our sewer treatment plant visit in Sedona, that we had a meeting with the town engineer and Henry. And then the next day met with ADEQ, a couple people from ADEQ. They've been following what we've been doing. And we're pleased to hear that we had gone to visit a couple of different sewer treatment plants. And we need to schedule a meeting in the near future to discuss our,
options.
I want to call it NIPD's permit, but it's ZIPD's now.
ZIPD's.
Yeah, it's the environmental protection permit. And ADEQ is following what we're doing and wants to see us making progress towards doing whatever we're going to do to fix the sewer treatment plant or replace whatever we're going to do. So I would like to schedule a meeting. And like I said, they were really pleased that we were still talking about it and visited the plants.
Great. That's great. I thought it was yes, I think great visit, great opportunity. So Candace, if we can put together a special meeting.
I'll send out a doodle for you.
Thank you. That'd be awesome. Mandy, anything you'd like to suggest?
Oh, come on. Of course there is.
I know there
Dr.
is.
Mayor.
I know. Trust me. I know.
Actually, I only have two, and they're pretty straightforward, simple things. First, I of course attended the NACOG October retreat, which was up in Tucson in the Grand Canyon, and that was the coolest thing. Vice Mayor Brady up there was awesome and an excellent host. But at that meeting, we of course get the list of our upcoming next year's meetings. NACOG does 3 meetings a year in Flagstaff, and those are our standard business meetings. And then we do 2 offsite meetings. The October one is our retreat, and then we also do one in the summer. And both of those are needing hosts. October here tends to be a little bit insane, but I have been in contact with Chris Fetzer, who is the executive director of NACOG, and his administrative assistant, Cindy, and have thrown Jerome as a suggestion for hosting the summer NACOG meeting. It's really not a lot of work for us. We just have to make sure that we have the locations, and then Cindy, who's the admin, does all the legwork and plans everything out for us and pays, it all comes out of NACOG's funds. So I just want to give you a heads up that we are kind of moving forward and investigating that possibility. What I was actually fairly surprised about is Jerome has never hosted one. And I think this is a great opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. My second thing, and this is whether we do this next month, January, February, but in the next few months, I would like to see a discussion about reviewing the residency requirements for staff that are in our ordinances right now. And at least kind of go over reasons, not reasons. Do we want to make alterations, changes, modifications, amendments, that kind of thing? I think we need to talk about that. I think it's been a long time since we've had that conversation. And with things that are going on with staff, length of service situations, and people deciding that, maybe sometime in their lifetime they want to stop working, and the lack of housing and the increase in the cost of housing, I think that we at least need to have a conversation about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mandy. So I think we got enough information and things. I can't think of anything else at the moment.
Motion to adjourn?
I think that's a good motion.
And I'll second that.
Oh, you will?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, there you go. So we have a motion and a second to adjourn. The only discussion I will have on that before we call the question is thank you all for being so wonderful. And I certainly will welcome any constructive criticism in running the meeting, please. So anyway, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 No?
Aye.
So it is 10:38 and we are adjourned. Be safe.
Thank you, Dr. Jack, Dr. Mayor Jack, Dr.
The Honorable Dr. Mayor Jack.
Yeah, there you go. Crazy.
Hey, have a